Alright, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we are back for some more Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player roguelike game that, well, let's hop into the laboratory here, because last time we were doing our first run for HIVE, a relatively new deck that focused on spawning in a bunch of units and also doing some Death Wish and Consumption. Have not done any runs in between our last stream slash YouTube video in which we finished said run, so if you've been keeping up to date on that stuff, you have not missed anything. But for today, what I'm thinking is we will probably look at another Hive Mind run, but last time we used Detloff, and this time I'm thinking we'll use SHANI because we've not yet used her. And so for her, the deal is she can play a unit from our graveyard every 3 turns. She has a shield, but unlike Detloff, she's not going to come back out from our deck if she gets destroyed, so she's a little more vulnerable still in that way. So I'm thinking what that means is that we're probably, rather than what we did last time with Detloff, which was basically get as many Slizzards as we could, wherever the Slizzards are hanging out right now, get as many Slizzards as we could to just consume Detloff repeatedly, and once we upgraded Detloff, we had an unlimited number of times that we could consume him. And we got some pretty crazy points on a small number of units that way. But I'm thinking that with SHANI, the idea is going to be to, instead of concentrating that power across a small number of units, spread that power across a bunch of different units and use SHANI to replay some big deployability cards. Because instead of consuming Detloff, obviously we won't have him, what we'll do is we'll use things like, say, Hjalmar, for example, that deals damage based on how many cards we have. So we play him, get a lot of damage from him, and then we actually consume Hjalmar. He may not have Death Wish, but we consume him because that way we can replay him with SHANI and use that deployability once again. So that's what I'm thinking is going to be the strategy with SHANI. I'm actually curious what happens when she evolves, though. Play a unit from your graveyard and boost it by the number of allied units on this row. Oh. Okay, so a little bit of boost to go along with it. I see. I was thinking it might just have been a cooldown improvement, but that is not the case. So, alright. Let's hop in here, get the run started, and we can talk more about the specifics then. I hope you guys are all doing alright. So, yeah, I think, once again, we'll go Hive Mind, but let's take a look at the specific things in our starting deck. So I think the key cards we're going to want to use SHANI on will be primarily Hjalmar. And, oh, okay, I didn't remember. I know we got Morvid, 2 Morvids in our previous run, one of which we got very late, but the other one we got quite early, and I didn't remember if it was because that was from our starting deck, or if we just happened to have gotten it from perhaps, maybe even our first battle reward. That may have been the case, because it is not here, but that would be a good card for us to target with SHANI as well. Things of that sort, that have big deployabilities that are based on how many cards we have on the board. I'm thinking that's probably the name of the game. So, let us do that. Let us select SHANI. And for what it's worth, of all the cards that we have played thus far as our key cards in any previous run, I have used those cards in Gwent multiplayer, and for the most part, they have been either identical or very similar in Rogue Mage and Gwent multiplayer. So I had a pretty good idea how to play those cards, how to build around them, and whatnot, what their weaknesses and strengths were, and how to compensate or further emphasize those. So, however, SHANI is the first card. I actually do not even have SHANI unlocked in Gwent multiplayer. I do not have her. So I have 0 experience using her, or very close to 0 experience using her. There's a chance in some seasonal events I may have randomly gotten her, but you know, I've never deliberately built a deck around SHANI before, and that makes me nervous. That, in addition to, I remember when we were doing the previous Hive Mind run, it felt like our starting deck was quite weak, and it wasn't until we at least got another Slizzard and upgraded Detloff that it started to really kick off. There's a huge difference once we made that happen, but before we did, it felt very suspect. So that makes me pretty concerned here with SHANI. I'm not sure. I would say this, of all the runs we've done thus far, I certainly had the lowest expectations for this one, so we're on a bit of a win streak now. I'd love to continue to build upon that, but alas, we shall see. I think if we were going all out on win streaks, then we probably would not do this deck right now and do something that felt like it was a little bit safer. But, you know, we'll try this one out. So, in terms of what we'd like to use for our spells here, last time we went Rapid Evolution, Thunder, and Rat Swarm, which Rat Swarm helped us get more units on the board, which certainly was helpful for the occasional time where we were building around the stuff like Hjalmar. However, as we were saying last time, we focused more on consuming Detloff over and over again, and that didn't really require that we use this, so we picked it, we used it, I don't know, maybe 5 times at most. But this time, if we are going to focus more on things like Hjalmar, I think this will play a bigger role, so Rat Swarm probably is still something we're going to want to see. Let's get back to, we'll finish with Thunder. Rapid Evolution was a bit of a gamble. We figured we're going to have, I don't love looking at that image, but let's look the other way as I talk. We used this because we thought we're going to get a bunch of weak cards, 1-power rats and cows and whatnot, and so if we use this on those, then chances are you're going to get some additional value from it, right? You don't know exactly what it's going to be, but you know, it's going to be something that is beneficial most of the time, but it is hard to plan around it, of course, because it is random. So not the biggest fan of this, and also it was kind of a replacement for what we'd done previously, Portal, which was not only a little bit safer because we're not replacing a 1-power or 2-power card occasionally, we're just creating a card from scratch, but also, in this case, we can choose between 3 cards, whereas for Rapid Evolution, it just happens, and you don't have any choice at all. So for that reason, Portal definitely was far more consistent, and although it is significantly more expensive, 6 energy versus 2 energy, I definitely can see why it's more expensive, because there's a very noticeable difference. So I could potentially see us swap it out of this, and we did say that one potential mistake we made in our previous run was that we might have wanted to include something like Cleanse, because there's one card in particular that I think this would be very helpful for, and it's a card that we were perhaps, much like we were just talking about with Hjalmar, we might need to lean on it more in this run with SHANI, and that is Ethereal, because the idea with Ethereal is you get a bunch of those weak 1-power cards on the board, and then you swap them into a 4-power Ethereal, and if you do that, you're trading up by 3 points every turn. However, that's how it works in Gwent multiplayer. It works a little bit differently in Rogue Mage. It's not a base copy of Ethereal that you're creating. It is an exact copy with however much power Ethereal has when you click on the order ability. So if you have an Ethereal that's been damaged, that could be lower than 4-power Ethereal that you're creating, and it might actually be net 0 points. That doesn't really help you. But if you have something like Cleanse and you boost Ethereal, presumably that would mean that you're creating a copy of a boosted Ethereal, and that sounds pretty nice. So that's the kind of thing that I think we'll be looking to do. So having Cleanse on hand, I think, will be useful for us for that reason, and that's probably something that we'd be willing to get rid of Rapid Evolution to make room for. Then, as I was saying, the Thunder. We'll finish with that, I think, because the 3 damage is nice, just to be able to target a specific card that we want to go after. It's not always enough to single-handedly get rid of something. It often is not. So you could potentially justify using our recently unlocked Masterful Thunder, especially because it's nice to have 2 middle-of-the-road, not super expensive spells, and then 1 big spell that you can use in major encounters like the elite fights, the boss fights, where you just, hopefully you're saving up a fair bit of energy so you can, spam it a little bit and really focus on, putting up the points when you need them most. So Masterful Thunder still gives us the targeted damage against a specific card and a little bit more of it than we would get from the normal Thunder. A little bit of a range there, so it's not perfectly consistent, but then we also, if we destroy that card that we're targeting, can deal excess damage to adjacent units. So assuming you get a decent amount of overkill damage and you do kill that target, then that means that you get a little bit of the best of both worlds here, where you're not only hitting one specific high priority target, but you might also be destroying or significantly weakening neighboring cards, and maybe you're destroying those, and that means you get rid of 3 high priority cards. That'd be amazing, but it just gives us the flexibility of, if our opponent has a few really strong cards, we go for those, or if they're just spreading out a lot of units on the board, it can do some quote-unquote wide punish as well. So I think we might be willing to justify that. It is a little bit heavy on the energy here because we have a 3, a 4, and a 6, whereas I think in the past we've gone 3, 3, and 6. But I'm not sure how often we'll need Rat Swarm. It is largely a backup plan in case other things happen to go horribly wrong and we lose a bunch of 1 power units, or we just don't happen to spawn in or draw into things like Night Wraith or Germain, things that can spawn in a bunch of cards for us. So I think this gives us a relatively well-balanced, I think more balanced set of spells than we had previously. So let's use those. And then last time, we actually did not have to use much of our energy. I think in part because both we used spells that, as we were just saying, were a little bit lighter on the energy cost, whereas this time that's a little bit less so the case. And also, we had a deck that, when the combos worked, was capable of putting up hundreds of points. So, most of the time when we're using our spells in other encounters, it's when we're not 100% sure if we're going to be able to win, and so we need to do a little bit of damage or get a little bit of boost or put other cards on the board to be a little more certain that we can emerge victorious. Whereas, last time it was, well, we're up by 300 points. The only way we're going to lose is if they have a way to counter this card, and playing 1 spell is not going to change that. So last time, Archmage Flask actually wasn't that significant, but this time it might be more important. Might have picked this up in between runs. At the start of the battle, boots a random unit in your hand by a random amount between 4 and 8. So if this happens to trigger on Ethereal, that would be amazing. But it's each individual battle, right? Yeah. So, if we get a 12-point Ethereal and we can create additional 12-point copies of Ethereal, awesome. And we could fill an entire row with 12-point Ethereals. That'd be absolutely amazing. But that's obviously not guaranteed, especially not when we have all these cards. So, yeah. That might be a little too inconsistent. Start of your run, remove 2 random bronze cards. I remember looking at this before. I think we are less reliant on the Slizzard compared to our previous run, but it is still our most consistent consuming card. So we can't do this because we risk losing the Slizzard, and if that happens, then we potentially completely brick our entire deck. Or if we get Slizzard and Cyclops destroyed, and we only have 1 Cyclops left, then yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. All units in your starting deck are upgraded by 1. That's not bad. In this case, again, the primary target we'd be going for would be Ethereal. 1 point more on Ethereal is maybe not amazing, but it's guaranteed to hit Ethereal, whereas this is not. So, consistency, more boom or bust. Then gain 3 additional mulligans. I just don't think that's... I mean, it's consistency, yes, but I don't think it's as effective as some of these other things that give us a little bit more of a unique type of benefit, and this is just a lot easier to find other ways to make that happen. I do still like the energy, though, especially when we have that Masterful Thunder, so we might just stick with this. I think we will. Okay, now for our curses. So, what I'm thinking is we're definitely going to want to try to get to some places of power and upgrade the base power on Ethereal. If I remembered which color place of power that was, that'd be great. I don't. So, might need to phone a friend on that one for you guys in chat. But, let's see. So we did Curse of Corrosion last time. Maximum upgrade value of rewarded units is reduced by... So I didn't notice this last time. I know we had theorized that perhaps by increasing, or by selecting this option, we would not have been able to upgrade at those places of power, but I think we still saw that. We were still able to upgrade power. I'm not sure we chose to do so. But the other thing we were wondering that this might have done was affect the increase in base power from the higher rarity options of cards that sometimes show up as rewards at the end of encounters, but I don't remember if we were able to confirm that one way or the other. Is that the only thing that we activated? Oh, we did this. Okay. Also, I was wondering if we can go above Apprentice here. No, it still says Apprentice is max. Okay. So maybe we need to complete another set of mutagens before we can go to higher difficulties. Wasn't sure if finishing one Apprentice run would be sufficient, but if it isn't, then might mean that we need to, you know, clear out another round of mutagens. So what are we most willing to sacrifice here? Again, I feel like of all the decks we've played thus far, this is the one that I'm the least confident in. So want to be careful of these. I thought this was a pretty substantial factor from last night. Yeah, this is almost single-handedly enough. Not quite single-handedly enough, but almost. Yeah, and removing the option to skip rewards, there's one occasion, I think, maybe two, at the very end of our run where that became a small factor, but I think this is not bad. Potentially do that. That's not enough. Just the 25% though. That plus that is, I mean, this affects places of power, which I don't love because we tend to select the energy from those places of power, but maximum upgrade value of rewarded units is reduced by 1. I still wish I had a better sense of how exactly that one works, but why don't we go for it? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. What could possibly go wrong? Let's see what boss we run into here. Presumably will not be the Fiery Fiend, because we just defeated that. Is it the Swamp Dude? No, it's the Dragon, actually. I was expecting the Swamp Dude, because we've seen the Dragon now 3 times, I think. And we've only seen the Swamp Dude once? Yeah, pretty sure. So, an overall lack of Swamp Dudes. But let's see. So, again, this is where, like, remembering what the color of the places of power would be very nice, because we'd like to target the ones that give us the increased base power. They don't say. So we can go red, or we can go green. And I want to say red is the remove a card, because there's what? There's remove a card, there's upgrade a card, there's duplicate a card. I forget what else. What's up, Anor? How are you? How's it going? Chat, we might just Google this right now. We know the answer. It's just I don't remember it. Gwent Rogue Mage, place of power. Let's see. Presumably this will tell us. Let's see. Red removes a card. I remember that correctly. Yellow is transform a card. That's the one that I forgot. Green is upgrade by 3. And blue is duplicate. Okay, so in theory, we'd like to be able to go after this one and use it to, or this one, and use that to upgrade. Likely, it would be ethereal, because upgrade the starting ethereal's base power, and that means that you're, upgrading each subsequent ethereal that you create. Now, we did do the thing that decreases the value of upgrades, but again, we're not really sure which kind of upgrade that affected, but we might be about to find out. So we have a preference between this one and this one. Let's just take a look at the map. There's an elite up here, which is only accessible if we go this northern route, which means we are probably not going to hit that. A lot of events down there. Elites in the middle. Looks like it is either or here. Okay. Any other green places of power we can go after? Lots of yellow in the middle. Lots of red. More red. Tons of red. Okay. So, oh, there's another elite down there. So yeah, if we... Sounds like we want to get one of these greens, and then... If we wanted to, can we go down in time for this elite? We could. Okay. So if we get any of the greens, we should be able to swap back down to either go the elite route or the non-elite route, whenever we'd like. Yeah, I guess beyond that, we don't really need to commit just yet. Feels like there are tons of events in this run. Okay, anyways, let us proceed here with our first battle. Doing all right. Heat wave exists for you. We also had a bit of a heat wave around here as well. It's been 90-ish degrees Fahrenheit for the past week or so and humid, which is, at least by the standards of where I live, pretty hot. Okay, so we did draw into SHANI. That is our key card, so that is good. We want to have a card with a big deploy ability, set up that deploy ability, play that card, destroy that card, and then replay it with SHANI, I think is the idea. And that means Hjalmar could be a very good option for that. We'd like to have ways to destroy Hjalmar, which we can do with the Cyclops, and ways to spawn in more cards than we could. Use our leader ability to spawn in rats. So that could be our answer for that. I'd obviously prefer not to have to do that, but let's get rid of the Harpy Egg. Slizzard is another way to consume, and a more reliable way to consume than this Cyclops is. Also, remind me what you do. Just damage. By one every turn? Okay. I think we dump you. Okay, that is capable of... Ooh. Creating more one-powered units, and I like the Ethereal. I do like the Ethereal. Okay. So, there are a few things we can do here. And the question is basically, what are we building around? Because we could build almost entirely around this Ethereal. The fact that they're a damage deck, if we put an Ethereal and only Ethereal out there, that might would invite them to damage it and weaken it significantly. So maybe we start off with something that spawns in units. So we don't need to start with SHANI, even if we are building around SHANI, because she's nothing to bring out from our graveyard anyway. So we can wait on her. So I think we go Night Wraith first, then it might be Ethereal. Power up the Ethereal with our leader ability, give it a little boost, and start converting these guys into more Ethereals. And if something gets destroyed, we can consider getting SHANI out, and ideally we end up using Hjalmar and destroy that, and use SHANI once she's off cooldown to replay him. So that's kind of the idea. That's kind of the idea. Had to quickly Google Fahrenheit to Celsius. Pretty much the same. Yeah, no wind and dry weather. Yes, we've had really dry weather. It's been like basically a drought around me. I mean, like, it is the middle of the summer, yes, but usually there's some rain to go along with it, at least a little bit, but... Okay, so they will have more damage. We'd like to keep our one-powered units. Oddly enough, I actually would have greatly preferred that they hit our Night Wraith rather than our one-powered units there. But what we can do now is we can go Ethereal. And we'll power it up using Cleanse, which I believe means that when we use this and convert the Night Wraith into an Ethereal, it'll be a 7-point Ethereal. It will. And we triggered the Death Wish when we did that, so we did still create a couple more one-powered cards. If they continue to poke us with little bits of damage on our one-powered units, that'd be unfortunate. Now we'd like to have this Ethereal get hit more than anything, because the one that has not yet used its ability is the one we're going to use next turn, and again, that's going to be what determines the value of the Ethereal that we end up creating. So this is very sensitive. And you're probably about to destroy it. That you are. That you are. So that could mean it's SHANI o'clock. We would like to play her on the Earth. Oh, it has doomed, so we can't get it back out. Ooh, okay. That's unfortunate. Bit of an anti-synergy between SHANI and Ethereal, at least. Had not thought of that one. Alright, so yeah, this Ethereal can no longer use its order ability, so Ethereal is functionally completely shut off here. In which case... and we can use SHANI and get back this Night Wraith just for the sake of getting it out there, and... I mean, it means we're getting SHANI's cooldown back more quickly, so... I guess it's not a terrible idea. Is anything else as time-sensitive as that? I mean, we'd kind of like to get a Slizzard out early, so we can do some more consumption, but that's not crucially important, because we don't have that many things that we need to hit with, or to consume. Werecat is Thrive, so the earlier we play that, the better. So that is technically something that would be good to play soon. We could do Werecat and then SHANI. I guess we'll do that. We played in this row, so we hit you, and it's not great, the damage there, because it damages everything in a row. Obviously, there's only one thing in that row. Okay, so like that we're getting more cards that give us a lot more units on the board here, because that will power up Hjalmar. But let's go, I think, SHANI here.
Severed limbs, blood, and guts.
Trigger that, Thrive, and now let's use SHANI to get back this Night Wraith. And I think we will play in this row. We'll probably put the Slizzard in this melee row, because we're going to have a bunch of Death Wish stuff here, I think. A little bit of a rainstorm at the end of your heat wave. We just had... Stop getting rid of our 1-power cards! We need our 1-power cards. Please stop. We had a little bit of rain today, and I mean like a little bit, like maybe 40 minutes? That was about it. That's probably been just about the only rain we've had for almost a month at this point, which is kind of crazy. I think it's now Slizzard o'clock, and technically Jermaine gets stronger the more time we give him as well. Might go Jermaine here, actually. I think we will, and we might put him in the range row here, because he's not a Death Wish card, so we don't really have any reason why we need to have him in the same row as our other Death Wish cards, which Slizzard can only consume things in the same row that it's located, so I think we do this. Yes, there actually, it seems to be a lot of wide punish. They, rather than dealing a ton of damage to one card, they deal a little bit of damage to a lot of cards, and that is our weakness, because we do have a lot of cards. And that Greatsword is a bit of a concern, because it will get healed back up to potentially as high as 10 if we let them do that. And so this might be time to play Hjalmar, so we can damage an enemy unit by the number of units that we control, and that is a lot right now. Right now, their biggest card is this Forktail, yes, however, this Greatsword can and will get up to 10, whereas this one is not going to go any higher than 6. So, at least not without outside support. That could otherwise just go on a different card. So I think it is probably Hjalmar here. We'll put him in this row, and then we're going to need to play Slizzard soon, otherwise we're going to run out of time to do all our consumption. So yeah, these are going to be all the cards we're going to have here. Cyclops does give us another way to destroy something. So that's one other way to make that stuff happen, but let's go here now. Destroy you. And unfortunately, no Thrive triggering there, because 4-power unit and a 4-power Thrive unit. Okay, this is bleed damage. Okay, SHANI is off cooldown here, but oddly enough, we don't have any units in our graveyard, so we can't use her unless we go Cyclops on this turn and immediately destroy something. Like Night Wraith, just for the sake of getting something. I mean, Hjalmar, yes, we want to destroy so we can replay him, but he doesn't have Death Wish. I mean, we could do that and just play him to get rid of this Forktail. That is an option, I suppose. Sure. That order of operation-wise, it's a little awkward. It might mean that Slizzard doesn't have time to consume the last card that we play. It might happen. But I think we probably can still live with that, because the nice thing about Cyclops is it can do the destruction on the same turn that you play, and the same cannot be said for Slizzard. So this is normally would be our best last-minute play, I think. But, again, because SHANI is currently off cooldown... What? Oh, right, we picked the card that we damaged. I remember that. I totally remembered that. I was like, why do I have to... Am I destroying another one of our cards? No. Well, we are going to do a lot of destruction here. So it does mean we can get a fair bit of damage by replaying Hjalmar. Gascon could become a highly boosted card. Yeah, of course it got the maximum amount of boost. I swear, we've seen Gascon on two, maybe a little more than 2 occasions, but he's gotten the maximum boost on at least 2 of those occasions. So, you know, is the game cheating? I don't know. I'm just saying. It's a little suspicious. So yeah, there is the Slizzard that we were saying we very much need to get. Now, the problem with SHANI is she can revive other cards. She can't revive herself. So what we really should have healed her there with a cleanse. We can still do some Death Wish triggering here with the Slizzard. So we can get some additional value, but, you know, we obviously would have liked to have still gotten SHANI, because one more Hjalmar play would have been really nice against Gascon. Because, of course, they played their really big card right after we used our big chunky damage from Hjalmar. Thanks, game. How dare you? Getting more units over here by consuming the Night Wraith would have been good for powering up Hjalmar, but is, again, just not quite as relevant anymore. Is this reason enough to feel like we might need to break out another leader ability here? I mean, honestly, it might, because we have a 10-point lead, but we've played one more card than they have. So I don't remember what this enemy's finisher is, but I feel like we should have boosted up SHANI last turn. That would have been the ideal way to go about doing it. But I mean, Masterful Thunder even potentially gets overkill damage on Knife Juggler, which would do a little bit of damage to Gascon. That's our burstiest option. Or we cleanse and get 3 points on, well, I don't know, Slizzard, just to make sure that it still has time to do more consumption, because we are leaning on it pretty heavily to consume you and you, probably. And this might actually be worth more depending on how many cards they end up playing in this melee row. But yeah, we are not going to be able to consume all of our Death Wish cards. One of them will have to remain unconsumed. So think cleanse. All we need for this turn. We'll gauge how things are looking after this, because Gascon's potentially decent play. I'd like how they're choosing to use their damage against a 1 power card that has 2 turns of bleeding on it. So that was nice. But now they've 3 cards here, but they have armor on 2 of those 3. So that means consuming this Werecat is worth 1 point of damage on you, but not really anything else. So consuming this Harpy Egg is plus 3 points. That is definitely our best answer here. We actually have 2 Death Wish units that we won't be able to play, or won't be able to consume. So, like you and you. 12-point lead. Yeah. That's a little nerve-wracking. So not exact, and also we're gonna take 1 point of lead damage here, so really 11-point lead. Don't love that. I think we probably do need to use something here. Perhaps something more than just a cleanse, or Rat Swarm is actually worth more points if we have the room for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We do not have the room for all of them. We only have room for 3 rats to come in here. So Thunder is 4 to 8 if we use it on you. We're definitely not getting overkill damage. We could use it on you. And I mean, if it's the low roll, we get 4. We get 1 overkill damage transferring over to you, but you have armor, so it's not really going to help. Yeah, I think we just have to go after Gascon here, because that would be kind of embarrassing, and we got the minimum. That'd be kind of embarrassing if we lost the first enemy, but honestly, as I was saying before, this is the enemy that I'm most concerned of, or the run that I'm most concerned about. So I wouldn't rule it out here. Madman Lugos is not enough, thank goodness. That would have been a sour taste of humble pie if we lost that one. All right, so Bandit Leader is defeated, thankfully. And let's see. We can add, I mean, another Hjalmar. We were just saying that is perhaps one of the biggest things is replaying Hjalmar, something we want to focus on, so I do like that a lot. I don't think we're in a place to be removing cards from our deck yet, even if it's one of our weaker cards. We need more stuff. And Were-Rat rather, is good for consuming things, as is the Barbiyazi, which in the previous run, with a key card that we want to consume over and over again, that would have been the focus, but less so the case this time, so I think Hjalmar is the answer. Okay, and I think we established green is good. That's the best option for us for places of power. So we should go for this one, and I think we established the middle one is ideal. So let's go for this treasure chest in that case. And what are our options here? Cloak of Invisibility could be an option for SHANI in particular. So as we just saw, she got destroyed, and as we were saying, we can't bring her back from getting destroyed. So that'd be kind of nice. Spawn and play 3 random bronze units. I mean, it's random, yes, but 3 units is a lot. So presumably, across those 3, even if none of them are amazing, you're still going to get decent value out of it. If you do happen to get 1 or 2 that are really good, then it should be fantastic value. And Erendite starts out at just 3 damage, but it gains 1 damage permanently whenever we get the death blow with it. And so getting it from our very first treasure chest is the perfect time to get it. So, I mean, it could build up to be quite significant given when we are acquiring it here. So this is tough. They're all potentially very good. Runic Disc is definitely the biggest question mark. Cloak of Invisibility is perhaps, I mean, either of these you could argue are the safe, quote-unquote, option. If not SHANI, what would we use Cloak of Invisibility on? Honestly, you could even put it on... Actually, yes, you absolutely could put it on a Ethereal. An Ethereal, yeah. 15-point boost. And then you transfer that over to the next Ethereal that you create. You shouldn't be passing the immunity or the veil, I don't believe. It'd be even better if it did, but that probably is not the case, just a 15-point boost, but that's a pretty big 15-point boost. That means we are potentially, doubling, tripling, quadrupling up on 15-point boosts, so that could add up very quickly. I think we go that route. And we were saying that was going to be one of our focuses, was building around the Ethereal, in particular at this place of power, so makes sense. Let's do it. Okay, so now we have a normal battle once again. Have we seen the Lantern Bear Wraith? I think we have, because I think we've been in this board before. Well, let's see. So your deal is if you control 6 or more specters, damage all enemy units by 3. Man, that is not good for us. Because, again, we are trying to focus on getting as many cards, or as many units on the board simultaneously as possible. So being able to damage all of those cards, and, I mean, 3 points of damage is going to be obviously enough to destroy any 1-power unit, and potentially even enough to destroy some bigger things as well. So that makes me a little uneasy. But, so what else do we have here? Hjalmar is a good finisher. We do still want to be able to get a bunch of those cards out to power up something like Hjalmar. So Germain is good for that. Harpy Egg, not really. Cyclops and Slizzard both give us some destruction. So I think we get rid of you. Night Wraith is probably preferable to the Harpy Egg because this spawns in more units, whereas this does not. I mean, technically, so this synergizes better with our deck, but is easier for them to counter. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. You know, do we focus on what was going to be our big strategy, or do we say, we're instead focusing on playing around our opponent's deck instead? because you can make a case for either. But, I mean, if we have enough damage to just shut down their specters, then we can prevent them from using that leader ability. At that point, it's not an issue, but who knows? I think we probably will want the Cyclops for damage to destroy a specter or two. So I do like that. We obviously don't have SHANI yet. So on one hand, Slizzard is our most consistent source of consumption. On the other hand, it's perhaps not as good at shutting down. It's not as good at shutting down their specters. On the other hand, it is a counter to this, because so what you want to do, if you assume that your enemy is going to use this ability, you want to have the lowest number of cards as possible, lowest number of units as possible, because that minimizes the amount of damage that they deal. So this actually would have been a good encounter for us in the previous run, where we're just loading up on getting as many boosts as possible on Slizzards and Detloff. Not so much if we're going wide, as we're trying to do here. So, again, we're caught between a pickle. Do we focus on us, or do we focus on them? You know, right now we kind of have a little bit of both. Or you could make the case that means we don't have enough of either. So, I mean, we do have our Rat Swarm leader ability, which could power up Hjalmar. So maybe we use that. We say, we'll try to go and focus on maybe something like Slizzard, or just generally not have too many units on the board. But if we do need them to set up things like Hjalmar, then we can use leader ability to make that happen. In which case, maybe this is the right balance. Obviously, I'd like to have SHANI, but... Okay, another Cyclops means more damage and more destruction, which means we have less need for Slizzard. But they definitely will not begin with the 6 Spectres. I mean, that is also a large number. But should go Germain first. Give ourselves more time to spawn in more 1-power units.
We'll defend our homes, no matter what.
Okay, Haunt will potentially give them numerous Spectres. And so I vaguely remember they have a lot of consumption. Which means they'll, I mean, well, we know what consumption is. So that means it's going to be hard to destroy them if we do give them enough time to get consumed, because they're going to become much higher power than they are initially. So, I mean, we could... Okay. I have a creative way to get rid of this. I was going to say we could use Masterful Thunder, but that is definitely overkill on this occasion. It's the minimum damage is enough, and it's 6 energy for just destroying 1 4-power card. That doesn't feel great. We have a way that we do have a way that is half as expensive that could still destroy it, or we could use Hjalmar and destroy it, guaranteed. That's probably not how we'd like to use Hjalmar, because it's, you know, we'd like to use him to get a bigger burst of damage than that. But what we could do is we do have another source of damage. That is the Cyclops. We also have this, but that's not going to be enough by itself. Problem with Cyclops is Cow, definitely not enough damage. Germain is enough damage, but this is an important card that we'd like to keep on the board, so we'd rather not destroy that. But what we could do, the middle ground approach, is cleanse on a Cow, get it up to 4 power, just so that we can destroy it for more damage to get rid of you. Okay, because yeah, more Spectres. And a Barghest that will consume one of those Spectres and become a 9. So that's what I mean. That is considerably more difficult for us to destroy. How many cards do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Play Hjalmar. I don't remember if he counts himself with his deploy ability when calculating the damage. It's not enough yet. It's close, but it's not enough. And before they did the consumption, I was going to say, well, we could use Cyclops that. No, that's not enough either. So, we did draw into Cloak of Invisibility, which is nice for point slam purposes, but we would very much want to have, ideally, an Ethereal to set that up. And we can't, if we put this on someone, we cannot proceed to then use Cyclops to destroy it for a bigger burst of damage, because by giving them immunity, we can't target them with Cyclops. we'd have to do something like what we just did and power up a card and then destroy that card with Cyclops. And even then, 3-point boost on Cyclops or on Germain is 8 damage, which is not enough to destroy you either. So it's not easy here. I think what we need to do is we probably need to go Night Wraith, and that'll give us more units, and that way we can set up Hjalmar on our next turn and maybe not destroy this Spectre, but perhaps whatever Spectre they try to play next. Because they've, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cards in hand, 1 Spectre here on the board. They will still get 1 more Spectre from Haunt, right? Night Wraith is the last one, so theoretically their maximum Spectre count right now is 1, 2, plus 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 7. So we need to destroy 2 Spectres, assuming these are all Spectres. We need to destroy 2 before the match is over in order to deny them this leader ability. So 1 can come from Hjalmar, 1 could come from Cyclops. If we can't make that happen with these guys, then we're going to have to make it happen with leader ability, or, I mean, Werecat maybe weakens them enough. I mean, that is a lot of 1 power cards, so Werecat is kind of tempting, but I think they're probably going to get another Night Wraith out here and perhaps spawn even more rats in this row. So I think we might wait on this.
Your blood will warm my bones.
Oh, also they're going to continue to draw more cards. Yeah, we need to destroy more than just the number that I was saying before. Apiary and Phantom is not a Spectre, even though it kind of looks like one. They consumed a 1-point rat, which is a little surprising. Hey, we did get Shani. We don't have any important units, or any units at all right now in our graveyard, but that does mean that we can go for a double Hjalmar here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage with Hjalmar. They also immediately use this order ability, which is not the right way to play that card, so we lucked out there. I think we might go Werecat now in this row, destroy all these rats, weaken you, and then potentially get you into Hjalmar removal range, and then destroy you Hjalmar with either Slizzard or Cyclops, and get Shani out here to bring Hjalmar back at the end of the match. Stuff like that, I think. I think that is the general idea. Okay, that is a Spectre. And that is also a Spectre. And that's why I was kind of wishing that we waited to play Werecat, because we could have gotten a little more value out of it. Spectre of our own here. But what we can do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can definitely destroy you with Hjalmar. But if we destroy you, we get 2 rats on our side, which is also beneficial. So take your pick, pure damage or damage plus more units on our side. I think we probably still go for the pure damage and Spectre removal, of course, as well. Boost the Thrive card a little bit. So next turn is probably Shani. And then we can go either Slizzard or Cyclops. That's also a Spectre. So Spectre count right now is 3. Yeah, no units yet in our graveyard. So Shani, I mean, we want to get her off cooldown quickly enough that we can use her again. So that's why I'm trying to rush this a little bit here. Yeah, even if we can't technically use her immediately. I suppose that actually means since she has Zeal and can use that ability on the same turn that we play her, and the same cannot be said for Slizzard, suppose that means we might as well play Slizzard now. We'll consume Hjalmar on our next turn with the Slizzard, and then immediately replay him with Shani, is probably the way to go about doing that. Okay, more of the Spectres. Need to be kind of careful. So, consume... I mean, we technically could consume you, and that's going to make Hjalmar a little bit stronger, but in the interest of immediately playing Hjalmar again, I think we still do this. I think we'll still have room in our range row, even once we spawn in one more thing with Germain here. Use Hjalmar. And on this occasion, okay, I mean, I said that, except now we might be destroying this Noon Wraith, in which case we're going to get more cards on our side of the board. And we might fill our rows. I mean, we can still consume things with Slizzard, and destroy things with Cyclops, so it's not the end of the world. Should still be fine. And I think we'll have just enough time to use SHANI again. Okay. And that was not a Spectre. That was just a card to boost up Apiarian Phantom. So right now it is a 3 Spectre count. With 3 cards in hand, that means if we destroy 1 more Spectre, we should be in the clear. So, I mean, we definitely can make that happen with Cyclops here. If we destroy you, you're going to summon a card from their deck, which might be a Spectre, so we don't love that. If we destroy you, then we're going to spawn more rats in our row, and we probably will be completely full at that point. We can still use Cloak of Invisibility, even when our row's full. So maybe that, and we can still consume with Slizzard, so maybe that's not a huge problem. Although, granted, if we're trying to destroy Noon Wraith, then it would need to be Slizzard, because it's the only thing that is strong enough to give us the damage. Or we could go after Night Wraith. Don't love destroying it, because it does spawn in more rats on their side of the board, so they get extra value out of it. So, take your pick. Yeah. I think this is just, if it was a 5-point unit, it'd be much more feasible. But alas, it is not, so I think we do have to go after this Night Wraith. And that means, why don't we destroy Hjalmar, since we're going to want to destroy him at some point eventually, or I suppose we can technically destroy Night Wraith is the most efficient way to do it. Destroy Night Wraith to create a Night Wraith. And then use Slizzard, and we could actually consume Werecat here. Yeah, because we're not going to trigger the Thrive again. We consume Werecat, and it destroys their rats here. So I like that. There's a non-zero chance that they have Glusty Warp as their finisher, which is a card that destroys all 1-powered units and gets a huge boost in the process when doing so. We've destroyed their 1-power cards, but we have a whole lot on our side. So it would not only deal a bunch of damage to us, but it would also boost them up significantly. So that's kind of terrifying. But, you know, we'll see if that happens. Okay, granted, they're about to get more 1-power cards. I am really starting to feel like that is their finisher. I'm really starting to think that's the case. We can cleanse one, we can Cloak of Invisibility, another 1-powered card, but yeah, you know, does make me pretty nervous, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points of damage, and 22-point boost on their side on that card, because it's boost 2, I believe, from all that. So a net 33-point play, which means we lose. I'd rather not have that happen. So I think we're actually Cloak of Invisibility going to use that on a 1-powered card to try to play around Glusty. And then we don't yet need to have Hjalmar in our graveyard. We can wait until our next turn. I mean, technically speaking, we'd like to consume Night Wraith, but then again, if it's going to create more 1-power cards, then we don't want to consume Night Wraith. So what I'm getting at is we might deliberately consume a 1-powered rat just so that we have fewer 1-powered rats. And we might use a cleanse on a 1-powered rat just so that we have fewer 1-powered rats. So I don't know if that single-handedly is enough to give us the points to avoid the Glusty, but their entire deck is kind of built around it. So that does really make me think that that's what their final play is. So now we would need to consume Hjalmar. And oh, I mean, I want to destroy a Spectre, but there's no good Spectres to destroy. This summons a card. This gives us more 1-powered cards, which in some ways is good. In other ways, if they have Glusty as their finisher, is bad. This gives them more 1-powered cards. This gives them a whole bunch more 1-powered cards if we destroy it. I mean, we could just do the damage on the Apiarian Phantom. And I think at this point, since they have 4 Spectres, if this is a Spectre, they're still at 5, so this doesn't trigger. So maybe we take that chance that they don't somehow find a way to get 2 Spectres out of this. That's pretty unlikely. So I think it's Hjalmar. Then I kind of hate how Night Wraith requires us to spawn in more 1-powered cards. But let's do SHANI first. No, Werecat. Actually could have been interesting. Oh, I mean, if we could have done 2 things at once. Use Hjalmar, destroy Plague Maiden, and then replay Werecat, then we could have proceeded to destroy all those 1-powered cards, but obviously we can't do both those things on the same turn. So I think we will probably still prioritize Hjalmar here. And with him, we'll just go after their big Apiarian Phantom, because it doesn't risk that we get any more 1-powered cards on the board, because I really want to avoid that. So much so that I'm debating whether we want to play this card at all. It's 3 points for us, 4 points for us, technically, when we spawn in the 1-powered card. But if their last card is Glusty, it's worth 3 points for them as well. So on net, it's a 0-point play. I mean, I guess we can still play it in that case. Okay, so quick mental math here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cows means Glusty deals 9 damage to us. 2 damage to them. So net 7-point boost, and then Glusty itself gets boosted by 22 to 29 points, and Glusty is, I don't remember how much base power, but it seems as though we have enough of a margin here that will still have us win, even if this last card is Glusty. And if it isn't, then obviously, you know, overkill. But I think we're in the clear. Is it Glusty? It is not. It is not. Okay, so we were safe. So we overspent energy a little bit there, but if it was Glusty and we weren't prepared, we would have been absolutely annihilated. So I'm pretty sure this enemy has Glusty and we just didn't see it this time. All right, let's see. What can we add? Haven for more consumption and a big burst of consumption, which would have been good in the first match. Just finish with this and consume all of the Death Wish cards that you have remaining on the board. That's not bad. Trigger Bronze Ally unit's Death Wish ability. Don't have amazing Death Wish abilities on bronze cards. I mean, Trigger Eggs would be another such type of card, but I think it probably has to be Kayrin. Yes, these ones both have higher base power than usual, but I think it's still, the answer is this. Also, we did set something up that reduced the base power upgrades of cards. We weren't sure if that meant, like, the higher rarity versions. Does it limit the effectiveness of that, or does it limit the effectiveness of upgrading card at a place of power? Because that was actually something that we wanted to do. I mean, let's also just take a quick look. Definitely not removing that. Could potentially justify removing the Night Wraith, but we just don't have that many Death Wish cards yet, so I think we're not ready to remove those types of things at this stage. Okay, and so now we are, I think, going to confirm that theory, because we're going to go to this place of power. In theory, it is one where we can upgrade our cards, and we'd like to do that. It says it's 3, which is the normal value, I believe. Is it functionally going to be a 1-point upgrade, even though it says it's a 3-point upgrade? Because we want to improve you. It does still work. It does still work. So that is a really big upgrade, because what that means is not only is the initial ethereal now 7 points, but it means each subsequent ethereal is also going to be 7 points if it doesn't get boosted or damaged. If we can, of course, use a cleanse on it, then it could be 10 points per ethereal, and that's pretty amazing. Having a row full of 10 power units, that is definitely enough to win a match. So, of course, we've seen, generally speaking, people tend to target ethereal, but if we can throw something like a Cloak of Invisibility on it, then that is also a really nice way to set this up. So it can be a deck-defining card. We chose not to go that route in our previous Hive Mind run, but given how we no longer have the amazing Detloff target for all of our consumption, we might need to find another key win condition here. So now it's an event, and we opted not to take the energy. So that's the thing, is generally we've been really aggressive with taking energy in those types of places of power in the past, and so we're not going to get another place of power for a while. We're going to have to get by on... I mean, it's still 57. It's not bad, but just need to consider that. Okay. So, because some of these events will sap our energy, we'll have to see which one this is. It's a marketplace. You arrive in town on the busiest day of the week. Market stalls line the streets and vendors shout various offers and haggle with customers. You can select 1 out of 10 cards to add to our deck. I mean, absolutely. What do we like here? Doedric, Zeal, order, draw a card, then move a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. Cooldown 1. So basically, every turn you can swap a card in your hand with a card in your deck. It's a way of getting more consistency. Also, 8 base power is not bad. We don't yet have any forms of consistency. In the past, we've had pretty good luck with getting the Magnifying Spyglass early, which has been our way of making sure that we got our key cards, and it's been a while since we haven't had it, to be honest, so having something like Doedric could be useful for that reason. Lady of the Lake, shield, give another unit a shield. I mean, SHANI starts with a shield. If she loses her shield, we can put shield back on her with Lady of the Lake, but not feeling all that excited about Lady of the Lake here. Istrid, actually quite similar to Doedric. Basically, Doedric is 1 card per turn, whereas Istrid, you build it up over time, and then, or you build up his capability to draw cards and switch them with your cards in your hand over time, and then once you activate it, you then switch them all, or have the option to switch them all, and you either boost him or boost the cards that you draw into in the process, so very similar. This is basically slow, steady. This is build up for a big burst of card draw. Ooh, Axel, 3 eyes. Spawn 2 crows in this row if we play in the melee row. Range row, boost self by 1 for every allied unit. We're trying to get as many allied units on the board as possible. That's really hard to turn down. So yes, there's consistency, but we also just need some more cards that help us win. Because we only have, what? Like, SHANI kind of? Or at least SHANI in and of itself is not really strong enough to make us win. It's SHANI plus Hjalmar is enough. We have 2 Hjalmars, so that gives us a little more consistency there. And we have Ethereal. Outside of that, really don't have much. Like, honestly, like, what else can win us a match? Book of Invisibility, I mean, is set up for Ethereal for the most part. I don't think anything else is strong enough by itself to win us a match. Like, maybe Germain, but not really. So, I think we just need more cards that win us matches. And Axel is one of those cards. Toad Prince, consume an enemy unit with 3 or less power. So, steal power from your opponent and absorb it yourself is nice. It's kind of gimmicky. You know, it depends on your opponent having a card weak enough for you to do that to. And if it happens to be a card that is of particular significance, then that's also great. But that's 3 power is a low number, so that is kind of risky. Obviously, we can get another Cyclops. We know all about those. Bernard Student starts off with 1 damage, builds up over time. The longer you wait before you use it, and you can only use it once, so this doesn't really synergize with what we're doing. At the end of your turn, if you control more units than your opponent, boost self by 1. That is likely to happen. So it's an earlier card to play that builds up over time based on having a lot of things on the board, whereas Axel is a get all the points immediately so you can play it at the very end of the match. That is generally a lot more valuable to have things that can score a bunch of points quickly. So also has 1 higher base power, and we can either spawn 2 crows, which means a couple of 2 power units, so that makes them 9 if we do that, or obviously the big one would be range row when we have a lot of cards on the board already. So I think it's still Axel's probably winning this competition thus far. PFI just spawns more cards, but it's not even that good compared to other ways in which to do that, like Night Wraith, and we already have a couple of Night Wraiths, so I think it's got to be Axel. Okay, never been one to pass up an opportunity to resupply. You browse the assortment of wares on offer and purchase what you need for the road ahead, and that didn't even cost us anything. So that has to be one of the best events, I would think. 3 cards, or multiple cards, or at least multiple choices of cards, some of which were not amazing, but some definitely were. So that's a good pickup. Now we go into another battle, and let's see what we have here. Nekker, Big Boss. I don't know that we've seen this guy. I'm not sure if we have. The fact that he says big boss is kind of funny because he's technically not a boss, although he does say he's a hard enemy. Whenever an allied unit is destroyed, spawn a Nekker on the same row and boost it by 2. And a Nekker is a Thrive card. Ooh, okay. So, sounds like this guy's going to have kind of a similar deck to what we're doing, at least in the way that he's going to have perhaps some Death Wish, so that he's destroying allied units. Although this is not even when they destroy cards, it's whenever a card gets destroyed. So even if we do it, they're still going to spawn in a Nekker. Wait, so is it even possible to destroy all the Nekkers then? Right, because you destroy a Nekker, something gets destroyed, it spawns in a Nekker. You try to destroy that Nekker so that it doesn't get boosted a lot. Well, you can, but another Nekker is going to just take its place. I think. And boost it by 2, so it's a, you know. So what is the answer? I think the answer is weaken, but not destroy. Which is generally not good against Thrive cards, because it means it's just going to be easier for them to trigger Thrive again. So, this guy's going to be kind of weird. Hard to completely counter him. So I'm kind of just hoping that his deck is not great at scoring points. Because it's hard to shut him down completely, it would seem. But as for what we have here, we have SHANI, we have Axel, and we have Ethereal. So we want to make sure that we have cards for Ethereal to transform, to create extra copies of himself, and we can get some of that with Night Wraith. Could do that with Werecat and trigger the Death Wish. We'd rather not do that immediately. SHANI, we do need some cards to get destroyed to set her up. So what are we looking at right now? It's probably Night Wraith and Werecat early and use Ethereal to transform into some of them. Once Ethereal has destroyed some cards, then you use SHANI to bring them back. And finish with Axel, basically. Don't have a lot of ways to spawn more cards, so we might need to use a Rat Swarm ability. Might just stick with this, to be honest. It's not bad. I mean, we could do better than Night Wraith, but we don't have... I mean, what, like Germain would be the ideal replacement? Picking up a Cloak of Invisibility would also be really nice. I guess we take our chances and swap this out, and like we were saying, you know, we're willing to use Rat Swarm. Okay, well, that's definitely not what we wanted, but we did get one in return, so okay, fair enough. So... now... you have Zeal. So we can wait to play you next turn and immediately destroy this Night Wraith is probably the answer that we're looking for. Although technically Werecat would get boosted from Ethereal, so we'd kind of like to get Werecat on the board early as well, but that's 1 point. It's probably not a big deal. Okay, yeah. Lots of 1-power cards. And I think Werecat is going to be really good at... they're going to have a lot of units. So being able to damage a lot of units by a small number is going to be really nice with Werecat, and that would probably be the recipient of SHANI rather than Hjalmar. I mean, if they happen to get something really big, we can use Hjalmar, but as we were seeing here, we destroy something, a Nekker is going to take its place, so it's not great to go that route. So I think we do go Ethereal early. Let's boost Ethereal with a cleanse, just to make this a bigger conversion and spawn in lots of fodder for Ethereal to keep on doing its thing. So I feel like this... well, I won't speak too soon. Lots of Thrive. Okay. So starts weak, builds up over time. Seems like is the name of the game here. In that case, if it's just a pure Thrive deck. So... now, probably want to get SHANI to get her off cooldown as quickly as possible, and then we can get a Night Wraith back and put that here and have Ethereal destroy that. And just keep on chaining that. In fact, we don't even have enough room to do that. Not entirely. Oh, yeah. No! Ah, Lids, you idiot. We saw this happen once before in our previous run. It doesn't brick the rat. It bricks Ethereal. So what happened there was our row was full, and so I clicked on Ethereal thinking, okay, we'll destroy one rat, we'll replace that rat with an Ethereal. We won't quite spawn in the 2 rats that we would normally get from the Death Wish on Night Wraith. But no, we saw this once in our previous run. What happens is it doesn't let you use the Ethereal. It doesn't spawn in the new Ethereal, but it still uses this order ability. So we have now prevented any subsequent Ethereals from getting created when it would otherwise have been just absolutely amazing setup, and we probably could have had an entire row of 10 power units, which would have potentially been enough for us to single-handedly win the match. So that stinks. That stinks a lot. Also, we may have needed to leave at least one spot here for us to put Axel, and we need one spot to sneak in a Cyclops, because that could clear out space. I mean, technically it's just a net 0 space, or Slizard to clear out a bunch of space. So that was actually potentially catastrophic, like run-losing mistake. It may have been a run-losing mistake. Yeah. It may have been. So, not feeling great about that. We now need to proceed to play something suboptimally as well, because this row is full. And we would have liked to have played something else there instead. So it could be Hjalmar, destroy something with a ton of overkill damage, and replace that with a Nekker. Could get rid of a Thrive 2 card and replace it with a Thrive 1 card, which is, I suppose, a very minor improvement. Could get Slizard down for proactive consumption. I mean, it might just be that. Oh, except we've already... Right, we played the Night Wraith on this turn. Okay. I mean, is there anything we can do to salvage this on this turn? Not really. Not really. I mean, cleanse, but... Yeah, we might have just lost. Kinda think we did. Now the game's gonna rub it in our face. So we could have had 25-point Ethereals for this entire row, which absolutely would have won us the match. Now the game is just gonna taunt us with what could have been. Okay. Be that way, game. It was my mistake. But you're not gonna let me live that down, are you? Okay. Well. Yeah, I mean, our hand otherwise was very good. And it's all just perfect setup for what could have been. But almost nothing works anymore. Because Jermaine fills, or gives us a ton of cards in this row, which would have made for an amazing Axel in the range row, but we don't have room for him. Would have made for a ton of damage on Hjalmar, but we don't really want to do that. Probably has to be Werecat. Or it's Jermaine. I mean, we could Jermaine and then just proceed to consume himself with Slizard. So we still have room. That's the difference between our range row and our melee row is, I mean, this is completely full, this is not, but we can continue to create space with Slizard if we absolutely need to. So, I mean, if we have any hope of finishing this match, then we need to use leader ability charges aggressively. Rat Swarm's not going to work here because we're going to run out of space. So it's going to have to be Cleanse or Masterful Thunder, except the thing is if we destroy cards with Masterful Thunder, then they're going to spawn stuff to replace it. The funny thing is, if they didn't have that ability, we could have potentially destroyed all 3 of these cards simultaneously if we high rolled the Masterful Thunder, which would have normally been amazing. But I assume it still replaces all 3 of them, rather than just one of them, even if we only use one card to make that happen. So basically means Masterful Thunder is off limits unless we don't kill something with it and only weaken things with it. But kind of needs to be Cleanse. Cleanse is a dramatic 3 points. Guys, it's not looking good. It's really not looking good. We just, like, we are very close to having almost nothing we can play as well. Here's something we can do. We can destroy that Barbiyazi, because on one hand, by doing so, we'll spawn in a Nekker. On the other hand, if we don't destroy it, it's gonna consume 2 cards, so they'll absorb the value from those cards, and they'll still spawn in 2 more cards on their side, so this needs to get destroyed immediately. And we can do that with Cyclops, we can do that with potentially Thunder, we can certainly do that with Hjalmar. SHANI is also off cooldown. It's good for another Night Wraith, which we very much do not have room for. I think we go... I mean, we could Hjalmar, immediately destroy Hjalmar and replay Hjalmar with SHANI, which normally would be great, but that doesn't work against this opponent. I mean, again, we technically destroying a Fuka is still beneficial. So I suppose we do that. Destroy you, you get replaced by a 3-point Nekker that is still beneficial, and if we destroy a 6-point Fuka that is a Thrive 2 unit and replace that with a 3-point Nekker that is a 1 Thrive unit, then that is still technically beneficial. So I think we consume Hjalmar, replay Hjalmar, and destroy one of these guys, because that is still something that we are relatively okay with, and we could potentially Alzur's Thunder, or the Masterful Thunder here. I mean, right now we have a 30-point lead, which is a little misleading, because, I mean, Cyclops can still be okay. This can still be 15 points. This would be to spawn units, and we're probably not going to have much room for that. Werecat we're basically using as a finisher to hopefully damage a lot of stuff. Speaking of finishers, I have no idea what their finisher is going to be, but would use Germain, but we also, that would fill an entire row, which we don't really want to do for the reasons we have previously discussed. Yes, we have a Slizzard that can clear out a little bit of space, but then we still don't have room for SHANI and to play more cards from our graveyard and so on and so forth, so it just puts us in a really nasty spot. So we will not use this. I'm gonna do this. We high rolled there, which was good. We destroyed a high priority, powerful Fuka and replaced it with a weaker Nekker, and we damaged this Nekker warrior a little bit as well. So getting rid of the big Thrive cards and replacing them with smaller Thrive cards. Cave Troll is a defender, which means we can't target anything manually in this row other than the Cave Troll. So good thing that we did target stuff while we still could. But at this point, I mean, we could probably destroy you if we really wanted to. If we consume some stuff and then use Cyclops to destroy this Lizard. But that's probably not necessary right now. So, if anything, what we might want to do here is if we consume a cow, just because it's disposable, or Hjalmar, because we're eventually going to want to bring him back, probably, then we have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you get destroyed, so 7 cards, which means we have room for 2 more, so we play Axel melee row, we spawn in 1 crow, and the row is full. Still don't love that. Still don't love completely filling our rows. So I think that might mean that it is Cloak of Invisibility time. And if we use this, we just want to make sure that it is used on a card that we are never going to want to consume or otherwise manually target, so we might as well make it one of these rats. Still want to clear out space here. That looks familiar. Some more card destruction of their making. which meant they got another Nekker out here. Technically speaking, what we'd like to do is use Cyclops to deal enough damage to reduce their score, yes, but not quite destroy something, just so it doesn't trigger their leader ability, which is difficult to do at this point. I think Axel is going to have to be our last card, because otherwise we're going to brick the rest of our cards that we play, because we aren't going to have room for them. So on one hand, I wanted to save Cyclops, and I wanted to save Werecat for a little bit longer, but this might need to be Werecat o'clock. I think it does. So we hit all of them for 1 damage, so that's why I wanted to wait to see if they played more cards over here. We should consume something, and we can consume Werecat again to get more damage here on everything. Again, the longer we wait, the better, assuming they continue to play more cards here, but we might... well, so if we do that, we could replay you with SHANI and consume you again. Is that better, or is Hjalmar better? Honestly, that is probably better. Although, if we wait one more turn, we can trigger your Thrive once before we consume you, so technically, we ought to just clear out some space. Then next turn, it's consume you, use SHANI to play you again. I think that's the order of operations. Okay, Griffin, again, destroys something and spawns in something to replace it. And they're being smart, destroying their smallest unit. Okay, so now, it is consume you, damage everyone by 1. Then it's use SHANI to replay you, and damage everybody by 1 again. Not destroying anyone, but significantly weakening them at this point, so that is nice. And then we still need to play a card from our hand, right? Cyclops, I mean, we'd like to use that to destroy Werecat, although we could just use Slizzer to do that on our next turn. We don't really want to destroy you on this turn, because that means we destroy this Nekker. So we'd like to wait one more turn before doing so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 would fill our entire row, but on our next turn, if we use Lizard and then play Cyclops, then we should still have space to make that happen. I think technically that is still okay.
Enemy burns, my blood boils and churns.
And that does pain me, because this could have been, what? A 17 or 18 point boosted card very easily. But alas, it was not. We might have wanted to use leader ability there in some way, shape, or form, but let's see. Solano Harpy, probably going to destroy you and replace it with something else. And so that means that, yes, we can consume this Werecat, damage everyone in this row, and not have to destroy anyone. However, by replaying you with... Oh no, we can't replay you with SHANI on this turn anyway. SHANI's on cooldown? Okay, no worries. To do that, then it's going to be Cyclops. And with Cyclops, we want to get a good bit of damage without actually destroying something. So what's our best way of making that happen would be 5 points of damage by destroying either SHANI or Axel, and using that on any of the 6s or on the Cave Troll. Yeah. Technically should be on Cave Troll. So that means it's 1 fewer card for them to potentially trigger Thrive with, or harder for them to trigger Thrive with. So you destroy this, damage you, and I mean, we can spawn in a unit with Germain. So I guess we will. And right now, it's a decent lead, but they have how many Thrive cards on the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're probably about to consume this as well, which will be 3 more points. So that's 8, plus whatever they're getting directly from their finisher. I think we might be okay. Dare I say. Famous last words, of course. just a point slam. I mean, it will destroy something, probably, and then replace it with another card. Well, they didn't do that. Somehow we won. We made absolutely humongous mistake that I am kind of amazed we did not suffer the consequences for that. I mean, we still had to spend a bunch of energy to win that match, but let's see. Elias, destroy an allied unit and spawn 2 Elven Deadeyes on this row is kind of similar to what they were just doing with their deck. Not loving our options here, though. I mean, that's probably still the best we have available to us. Andrea Eggs is kind of like a smaller version of Elias. This is built-in destruction and spawning, where this is no built-in destruction, but if it does get destroyed from some other source, then you spawn in 3 1-powered cards. This is 2 3-powered cards, so this is worth more points total and is set up for itself, whereas this requires outside assistance. And we are not getting rid of any of those guys. So, yeah, I think it's you. Okay.
A tall challenge, almost up to my belt buckle.
I'm pretty sure I also said that because we've not encountered that guy before. So, more events. See what we end up with this time. This time, ruins. While passing the ruins to an old keep, you feel a faint magical energy radiating from deep within its crumbling walls. Perhaps it's worth investigating. We can lose 5 energy for a 10% chance of finding a treasure or just leave. My guess is it's going to be one of those things where we've seen several times before. We've never seen this specific encounter before, but we've seen many times things like invest a little bit of energy for something good or potentially something good. If you want to go even further, invest even more energy and increase the probability of making something good happen, or just have it happen again. So my guess is that's the kind of thing where if we don't get it, we can search again, search harder, and eventually spend 10 energy, and now you have a 20% chance of finding the treasure, and so on and so forth. If we had not just spent a bunch of energy in that previous fight, then I would say maybe. But we have previously established there's not a lot of access to places of power to restore that energy, and we just used a bunch. So I think we are passing here. There are no time for distractions. There is no time for distractions. You tell yourself, ignoring the runes and the magical energy, you continue on your journey. I think it is technically the right course of action. So now, 2 paths. It's battle event or event battle. Either way, it's going to lead us to a treasure chest eventually. Although if we go the northern route, we are kind of committing to that, which is what, 1, 2, potentially 3 more places of power. Whereas if we go more southern routes, we are doing an elite battle. No matter how you slice it. Whoa, potentially 2 elite battles. What happens to SHANI when we upgrade her? One unit from your graveyard and boosted by the number of allied units on this road. That is nice. That is nice, but I just don't think we're strong enough to win an elite battle. I mean, maybe if Ethereal really pops off, but we just saw what happens when we mess that up royally. So I'm not sure how much I trust myself. I think we might need to play it safe here. In which case, let's go battle first, then event, and then we'll probably just stick to this. Yeah, we'll stick to this northern route. Avoid the elite battles, but that way I think we have a better sense of... Now, this is a little bit scary if we use some energy here, or not. We have the option of spending energy, but we don't know how much we're going to need for this upcoming battle this time. We get the more uncertain part done first. Okay, we've definitely seen this guy. Pretty sure he has a more difficult version, and we're not seeing it here. This is a normal version, so that's nice. Destroy allied unit, then boost another unit by that unit. The destroyed unit's power. Spawn frost of the same duration in an enemy row. Every enemy we have has this whole destroy their own cards synergies. Like, stop trying to steal our thunder, man. And we do have Cloak of Invisibility. If we happen to get that with Ethereal, it could be amazing if we don't mess it up this time. Harpy Egg's still probably our weakest card. Axel, potentially one of our best cards if we set it up properly. We are lacking destruction / consumption here, though. We have at least 2 cards that we would like to destroy, and no way to make that happen. So I think we kind of need to get rid of you. Okay, that is a way to destroy cards. Not a big fan of you, though. All right, so how do we want to start? Ooh, it might have to be you. I mean, we could make it you, but don't have anything to damage on your deployability, which is unfortunate, so I think it's gonna be you. Okay, but this looks really familiar. No! Don't keep giving us harpy eggs. Don't do this to us. I didn't ask for this. I mean, I tempted fate by saying it was our worst card, but that wasn't me asking for it. Okay, we got SHANI, which is certainly nice. We don't have anything in our graveyard yet, but that will eventually change if a harpy egg gets destroyed. We now have reason to do something like Kalmar, destroy Kalmar with Cyclops and bring it back with SHANI. So, in the interest of getting SHANI's cooldown back more quickly, we'd like to do that promptly. Yes, the problem is Kalmar does not have much setup at the moment. I mean, technically we could go Melee Row Axel, destroy Melee Row Axel, and replay him in the range row later with SHANI. I mean, it means we're basically doing all that just to get 4 points worth of crows on the board, which feels like that's not great. Then again, right now that's a 3 damage Hjalmar, 2 or 3 damage Hjalmar, so that's not any better. Ugh. Gross. I mean, unless we Rat Swarm here to set up a bigger Hjalmar. If we do that, it's what? 4 more cards. 1, 2, 6, 7 if Hjalmar counts as himself, which is still not enough to destroy Fuka. Darn it. Not quite. I mean, that is probably still the best play, but you don't really like damaging Thrive cards because it just makes it easier to trigger Thrive, and this is Thrive 2, so even less reason to want to destroy you. I mean, we could go preemptive SHANI. It's usually not good because she is Zeal, so you can just use her the same turn you're planning to play her, and that's not what we're doing here. But in the absence of other good options, it might need to be the play. I mean, we could go Werecat, but there's nothing to damage here, and we'd like to play it in this row for potential Slizzards, but we'd like to play it in this row for damage. As we were saying before, damaging a Fuka is generally not a good idea, so nothing's good. Nothing is good. What is the least not good? Probably still this. This is obviously spending energy, which I don't love right now. And the highest unit in a row is going to be the thing that gets damaged by the Frost. So we could play Hjalmar Melee Row and make that become the Harpy Egg. Or we could play him in this row and he'd be the card that gets destroyed or gets damaged. I think we want to keep space for Axel though, just in case. So let's go here. Don't like lowering you down to a 1, but we kind of don't have an alternative. Cave Troll in the row in which they don't have their unit is kind of weird, but okay, so this is why I wanted to wait to play other stuff, Death Wish cards in the range row, because Slizzard could then proceed to consume them. So, consume them all. And we could still wait to... Oh, well, I mean, yes, but also we'd like to use Cyclops to get rid of Fuka, and if we use that on Hjalmar, we can make that happen right now, which is probably the way to go about doing that. And that means we do something in our graveyard so we can replay Hjalmar on our next turn with SHANI. Yeah, I think we prioritize that. Does mean we need to play Cyclops in this row, but now we actually get rid of the Thrive unit. That's much better. You don't want to damage and avoid destroying a Thrive card, because as I said, it means it's easier for them to trigger the Thrive. But if you get rid of it altogether, obviously it's not getting boosted anymore. We draw into our other Hjalmar. So, well, I mean, it's Hjalmars everywhere, as it turns out. I think in general, you want to try to row stack against row effects, because by having cards in multiple rows, we're allowing them to get twice the value out of it, but we put SHANI here, she's going to get damaged by it. I mean, I'd kind of like for the frost to happen to hit a Harpy Egg, so maybe we stick with this. Use SHANI. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is enough to destroy you or damage you a little bit through the armor, but not a lot. I think we just take the pure damage. Ooh. I mean, technically, you kind of helped us to a certain extent, because that is going to be the target for us to bring back with SHANI in a few turns. We can still play this Hjalmar, and, well, I mean, we can wait. This one is not time sensitive, because we have one waiting for SHANI in the graveyard anyway. So, why don't we go Slizzard here? Technically, Slizzard has a bit of an anti-synergy if we're actually consuming and destroying cards, because that means fewer cards for Hjalmar, but if we're destroying cards and spawning something else in its place, then that's fine. That is going to hit Slizzard. So now, I mean, we can do Werecat, which technically does have some long-term value from boosting up its Thrive, so I suppose we should probably do that, even if there is functionally no value out of that deploy ability. But now let's actually consume one of these Harpy Eggs. Okay, Ghoul consumes a card. So they have lots of big point slams, which seem to be ways in which they were theoretically going to trigger the Thrive on the Fukas, but we got rid of those, so fortunately, seems like we kind of significantly hamstrung them by doing that. Now let's once again consume this Harpy Egg, spawn in another Harpy in its place, and we're probably looking to Hjalmar destroy you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 should be enough. And we can SHANI to get our other Hjalmar, or if we really want to, a Harpy Egg, but I think it's definitely Hjalmar here. To technically, we're just going to be hitting a Cave Troll, and a lot of that damage is going to be hitting the armor, but it's something. It's something. Okay, Old Spirit Tip is, again, a point slam. So now we don't have much reason to consume things outside of the Werecat with Slizzard, but we'd like to wait to see if they play more cards in here, to see if the Slizzard is worth using on Werecat. Because if we use Axel now, when we still have the maximum number of units and we're maximizing his boost, this is what we were trying to do last time, range row to boost up by 1 for every allied unit. Certainly could have had a little bit more. We did not have a ton of units spawning with our hand this time around, but still a 15-point unit. So that means Cloak of Invisibility will be our finisher here. I mean, we do have a lot more cards than they do. That is true. That was a really good finisher, or second to last card play for them. But this isn't bad either. Do we have something in particular that we'd like to give immunity to? I mean, if they have a lot of damage, then presumably they'd want to go after Axel. So maybe... Yes, it is loading up a ton of boosts on one card, but giving it immunity so they can't target that one card is maybe fine. So let's do this. And then we consume Werecat for 1 damage on that Cave Troll. And how are we feeling? Do we need to use anything here? I'd like to believe we're okay. If they happen to have another Jotun, which I doubt they do, then they'd probably be able to catch us. But anything smaller than that, and probably not. I mean, what else would they have? And they've used most of the big point slam finishers here with things like Old Spear Tip. don't even know what else their finisher might be. I don't remember. Ugo? 10 points, damage one of their cards by 3. That's definitely not big enough. Taking a little bit of a chance here. Betting against them. It's Old Spear Tip, the 9-point version. We're fine. Okay, let's see what we have the option of selecting here. Katakin, spawn an Ekimar on this row. If it gets destroyed, you can do it again. And it also has Thrive. At 7 power, it's going to be kind of hard to trigger that, but it's an option. Spawn 2 drones on this row, then boost all other insectoids on this row by 1. So drone is another 1 power card that you can potentially spawn a bunch of copies of. If we had more insectoids, then this could be a way to spawn more and boost them all, which is nice, but we just don't really have insectoids. For the most part, we're spawning rats and cows, so there's not a lot of support for this. And Barbiyazi does give us more consumption, which is, of course, a nice thing to have. Ways to destroy cards, and we've improved our... Hold on. What have we upgraded? I guess we did get additional consumption with Karen. We've not yet drawn into this at all. But that is one way to destroy cards. We did also add Elias. That's a little more destruction. Axel's just a point slam. Trying to gauge how much more consumption, if any, do we need. We obviously still have our Slizzard, 2 Cyclopses, so it's 3... potentially 9, or 8 cards destroyed, although that's speculative. That'd be, what, 11 total, although it's not super realistic. 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, that really more like, you know, minus the 8. It's more like 7 or 8. Maybe more with Ethereal that we can destroy. That's decent. Alright, I suppose Slizzard is also potentially infinite. I guess we don't need this all that much. Maybe we do prioritize more spawning, and I think Katakin might still be the best way to do that. Or we can remove not good options here. I think we add you, I guess. Not amazing. It's maybe it's above average addition to our deck, but it's not like it's a huge game changer for us. Alright, so now we can go the southern route and guarantee that we get into an elite battle. I think we, as interesting as it might be to upgrade Shani, I just don't think our deck is strong enough to be relying on beating an elite. I think we need to settle, unfortunately, so let's go with this event instead. It's the tavern, so... Ooh. Okay, after a long day, you decide to rest at a roadside inn. The interior glows with the welcoming warmth of the hearth and the friendly chatter of tipsy travelers. As you enter, the patrons turn toward you and, upon seeing your illustrious garb, fall quiet. It's not often that a mage walks into a tavern, after all, so we can either rest and restore 20 energy, which we could use right about now, or we could buy around and upgrade a unit by 2, which would probably be Ethereal again, which would get it up to a 9, which, I mean, that is significant. 9-point Ethereal. If you can fill an entire row with 9-point Ethereal, that's a lot. That's, what, 81 points? And if you use a cleanse on it first, then that's 12-point Ethereal that you're filling the entire row with. That's obviously even better. Is that worth more than this? I wish I had a better recollection of what we had out in front of us here, because if we're about to go into a bunch more battles, then getting the energy back could be useful. We don't have any more places of power to upgrade, I don't think. So this is technically a rarer opportunity than this is, but it is more of a luxury than this is. This is more fundamentals. This is perhaps greedier. We'll try it. We'll try it. It's definitely going to be you. Yeah. Definitely gonna be you. It can upgrade another unit by 2. 50% chance of hangover, which I assume is a card that is going to give us negative value or 0 value if we draw into it. So you spent a long time on the road, and you could do with a dose of camaraderie. Much to the joy of all, you buy around and drink with the patrons. When it comes time to call for it a night, your friends beckon you to stay and have another drink. Just one more, they plea. What's harm one more? No, I think we call it there. Much to the dismay of the tavern, you declare that you need your rest and retreat to your bedchamber. Yeah, because I think that was just enough. Oh, we have a place power right here. Okay, so yeah, I think that made sense in that case to not go the route of energy, because we can probably do that right here. I also... Oh, no, we have a treasure first. Oh, we'll take that. We'll take that, too. Okay, let's see here. What do we get this time? So last time we got the Cloak of Invisibility. Pit Fighter is a card that gains value over time. We're acquiring this mid-run, so I think this is not the right time for this. Prism Pendant, your spells cost half energy. Ooh, we do have some expensive spells. And it just stays on the board. I do like that. Here's the Dragon, transform an allied unit into a random 1 cooldown 2. That does work well with this deck. So we have a bunch of 1-powered cards that... I mean, that's the reason why we had Rapid Evolution previously as one of our spells. Because there was a pretty good chance that we're going to get positive value out of this. And it does also work really well against bosses we saw last time, because I think all the bosses have statuses, right? Yeah, all of them do, including the dragon that we're about to go against. Or, I mean, we're not about to go against it, but soon. And by transforming a card, we remove that freeze, in this case. So that's kind of a way of countering our opponents. So, I mean, both of these are great, I think, for that reason. Might lean toward Tears of the Dragon, specifically because of the boss countering capabilities, and because for energy, we're at least about to go to a place of power, and I think we have a decent number along this pathway that we should have access to. There's one here. We have 2 battles, and we can go place of power there. 3 battles. Ooh, or wait, 2 battles, place of power, 2 battles, place of power. That's probably the route we'll choose to take, I imagine. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so this is transform a card or gain 20 energy. I think we probably do need to gain the energy here before we go into some more battles, and then, especially since we're approaching the end of the run, and sometimes those late run normal enemies can be some of the most difficult enemies in the entire run, so let's prepare ourselves for that if it happens to go smoothly. We just saw that there may be other places of power we can visit, and then for those we can take the alternative approaches. I think they're a different color shrine. They might be the ones that allow us to remove a card, which maybe at this late stage in the run, removing something like those RP eggs that we got a couple of last time around could be beneficial. So even that's not too bad at this stage. All right, let's hop in.
Blood calls upon blood.
This guy was a pain in the butt, I remember. Not in like a traditional way, or not in like a straightforward way. Was he just an RNG meme lord that was annoying? There are 6 or more units on the battlefield. Destroy the lowest power unit, then boost the lowest power allied unit by 2. Yeah, that's a problem. This guy also counters us, because there's pretty much always going to be 6 or more units in the battlefield for us. Yeah. So what you'd want to do against him is try to concentrate your power as much as possible between a small number of cards. So consume rather than spawn in things, and also destroy their cards to minimize the number of cards on the board, and therefore prevent them from destroying the lowest powered unit and then boosting. I mean, we could find, I think there were times when we found against this guy previously that we, with careful planning, were able to make it so that he's at least destroying himself, or destroying one of his own cards. I mean, I think he does something really similar, spawns in a bunch of 1-power rats and what have you. So it makes it really easy for him to get to that 6 point, or 6-unit threshold. If it does trigger against himself, he's destroying something weak, and then boost the lowest powered allied unit by 2. I mean, if that does end up happening, then it's a net 1 point play for him, so that's not that big of a deal. If he destroys one of our cards and it's a big card, then that could be worth a lot, and then he's getting 2 boosts on top of that. So yeah, I think I just want to try to prevent him from, or make sure that we have higher power cards than he does, and probably going to need to accept the fact that we're going to get to that 6-unit threshold very quickly. So Hjalmar, of course, is entirely based around us getting as many cards as possible on the board. So this is completely counterintuitive to this, unless we were, like we were saying, accept the fact that we're going to have more cards than them, and we just need to find a different way to win. Slizzard would be the way to minimize the number of cards that we have. And Slizzard with a Cloak of Invisibility plus Kayrin to consume other cards. Actually, this would be a fantastic way to minimize our cards. It also destroys stuff. I'd like to have some Death Wish things, though. You are Death Wish. You do spawn a lot of things. So this does set up Hjalmar if we want to go that route. Obviously, I got rid of a Hjalmar, but that was because I wanted to have things we actually wanted to consume, because realizing that we had these two, felt like, you know what, maybe we can go the all-out consumption route. So let's, I mean, technically we want to play Slizzard first, but he's vulnerable when he's out there by himself. And only on 5 power. Does that mean we cleanse him to get him a little more out of removal range? Sure. We will not convert him. Ooh, okay. Now I remember why. Now I remember why this guy was a pain in the butt. So he played Artist first turn last time as well. That's why. Okay. Now it's all coming back to me. Okay, well, fortunately, if we play Harpy Egg, it will get damaged a lot, but we can then proceed to consume it and spawn in something else to replace it, and that spawned unit will not get affected by Artist. I think we also just destroyed Artist altogether last time, and that significantly made this easier. This guy definitely has a hard version. This is apparently not it. Probably the number of cards before it triggers, it changes. I mean, either way, even with this 6, he's definitely going to get to that threshold. But eventually, at least. Yeah, I think they had Artists. Last time, actually, we might have gotten greedy and decided not to immediately go after him. And then they immediately boosted him to get him out of removal range. So if we want to get rid of him, I think we need to do it immediately. And we could do that either by a quick Masterful Thunder, costs us 6 energy, or we could go, technically, Rat Swarm, gives us enough damage on Hjalmar to remove you. That means we're going to be at 6 units in all likelihood. So they are going to trigger this. If they do, it's probably going to destroy 1 power card on our side. Is that the end of the world? Probably not. I think we can live with that. It's cheaper energy-wise. Yeah, there's no other way to immediately destroy it, is there? There's not. Okay, let's do it. We have a lot of places of power available to us, so I think we can. I think we still can do this. Destroy you. That means Hjalmar doesn't even get weakened there. Then let's use the Tears of Dragon to convert one of these guys and see what we happen to get. Ooh. Ooh, really good. Morkvarg, obviously 7 more points than we had previously. When he gets destroyed or moved to our graveyard, he gets summoned back onto the board and gets doomed, so we can only do it once, but it's basically a mini Detloff. And so to have that in the same row as the Slizzard, pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. We'll take it. Still at 6 units, so they will likely destroy a 1 power rat, but you know, we'll live with that. And I mean, if you want to destroy 1 power rats, that's also fine.
I'm great. It's her power.
Okay. So now, I mean, we could Cloak of Invisibility just to make this lizard impossible for them to go after, which would be kind of nice. Now that we have gotten all these units on the board, I think we've established that they're going to have this whenever they want to have this. So there's no point in holding back. We might as well get Jermaine out as early as possible to maximize the amount of cards that he spawns in. So I guess we are doing that.
We'll defend down homes, no matter what.
And I mean, we have plenty of 1 power cards for Tears of the Dragon to go and transform, so do we want to consume these things? I guess we don't need to with Slizzard. There's no strict reason to do so. It's not going to make a difference for this 6-point threshold. Herald is going to be annoying. He's going to deal damage to his cards, and in doing so, deal damage to our cards. Okay, we could destroy most of them with Werecat, but in doing so, damage us a lot. So it'd be kind of hilarious, but at the same time, probably not a great idea right now. So maybe we hold off on that for the time being, and instead, what if we use Tears of the Dragon? Probably not gonna get as lucky as we did last time, but we can see what we get here. Yeah, so, well, a net 0-point play functionally changed nothing, but I mean, we didn't really sacrifice anything for it, so fine. Probably will use Elias here to destroy a weak card and replace it with 2 slightly stronger cards. So, why not?
I do what I must. Accursed racists.
Oh, and I forgot the Jermaine order. Oops. It's 1 point we left on the board. I mean, he does have cooldown, so we'll still be able to do it here and eventually get it back, but might amounts to 1 less chance to use this before the end of the match is through. On to the, man, these harpy eggs, we just keep on getting them. Maybe we do need to remove some cards from our deck, because the harpy eggs just do not want to go away. Also, we technically, I mean, we do want to get the Thrive triggering on this. I mean, not that harpy egg is going to trigger it, so I guess we can wait. Yes, we can still wait and see if they play more cards. I know we deliberately didn't do it immediately because they had all these Herald Pals that we're going to destroy in the process, and that was going to backfire on us, so it made some sense at the time to hold back a bit. Okay, more Melusine cultists. Yeah, everything is a cultist, basically. This dude is, I mean, he is a cultist priest. So, he's sticking with the theme. Okay, and let us continue to convert stuffs, I think. Trying to convert things in the same rows as Slizzard in case we happen to get things like Morphfrog that are good consumption targets for the Slizzard. So, let's see. Now, you trigger a bronze allied unit's Deathwish ability, and we don't get the deploy ability, so it's not going to work, but it is a base power upgrade at the very least. So that's still fine, and we can, once again, play Deathwish card and consume said Deathwish card. So that's not bad, and we have drawn everything that we're going to draw now. Small Blood Totem will spawn in some Fanatics that will get damaged and then converted into slightly stronger units, unless they actually didn't want that boost to happen, because now this order ability would have been guaranteed to convert these guys into 6-point Bear Abominations. It will convert you. It will no longer convert you. It's just going to be damage and not have any beneficial component to it. So, you know, might have been tempted to go Werecat here on this turn, but that would not be beneficial anymore. Unless we just outright remove one of you guys, which actually is probably the right move here with Cyclops. So if we get rid of any of our 4s, so could be you, we can destroy you altogether and prevent you from getting converted from this Fall Blood Totem. So that sounds good to me. No one we particularly want to consume in this row. There's the damage. It doesn't help them, although they can I guess Arnvald could convert you. Alright, fine, you found a way to convert him, after all. Now we can spawn, and just in time for the conversion here. Yeah, it's probably gonna have to be this. Okay, well, I mean, it's 2 extra base points, it's something. And it's probably gonna be time that we're gonna have to use this werecat here, and it might need to be range row so that we can consume you with the Slizzard, because we played the Cyclops, so we don't have any. Oh, well, actually, we could use Karen to consume you. So if we have reason to believe that melee row is better, then we could play you there. It's 3 damage versus 2 damage. Not like we're about to trigger the Death Wish on this, so it is comparatively safer than it was before to go melee row here. So I guess we can do it. Or we can go Cloak Invisibility, which I think we will do. Just to make it so that you can't target this guy. And that means they have 1 more turn in which to play units, so we can optimize Werecat slightly more. Unless we don't want to damage the cards in that melee row anymore, which is in fact the case. Do they have the self-damage to convert you? I mean, they have some with Herald. If they do this, they need to do it 3 times to convert you into the 12-power Champion of Svalblood. They only have 2 turns left, but if we give them 1 damage from the Werecat, then that is enough. Are they smart enough to know that? I have no idea. So I'm not sure. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, we were going to say Karen is here to consume the Werecat. So, I mean, I suppose we can go for it. Not quite as good damage from the Werecat if we go range row. Because that's rather get slightly less damage than suddenly enable them to get a 12-power unit. So I think we go this route. Play it safely here. Sabrina. Okay. That's a lot of damage. A lot of damage. We can, however, convert some of these 1-power cards that they just created. So let's do that. And we actually get a Death Wish card that is not only higher base power, but of course gives us extra value when we do that consumption. I think first, since that requires some room, what we'll want to do is we'll want to go Karen, consume you, and consume whatever else we want to consume from this row. Then we consume you with the Slizzard. We should have room to spawn in all the drones at that point. So we do this. Shouldn't really matter who we go for anymore. A little bit of damage. Consume you to trigger the Death Wish. Get some more units out here. We have a 21-point lead. They will be able to use their leader ability and destroy 1 point, get 2 points for them. So that's net 3, which means they need, what, 18 points from their last card? And they don't know how they could trigger this in 1 turn. I feel like they won't be able to make that happen, but if they have a way to get a bunch of points from a card and also still convert this Vild Carl, that probably would be enough. That seems very unlikely. I mean, otherwise, Masterful Thunder would be our best play, and of course, the best target would be you, but if we have enough damage to destroy you, it's great. And we can potentially get overkill damage on these guys. If we don't, then you're converting into a Champion of Svalblood, and we have shot ourselves in the foot to the nth degree. So I'd rather not do that. We could target you if we get extra damage. It hits the cultist. If we feel like we just need a tiny bit more points, then we could go for 3 points with Cleanse or 4 points with Rat Swarm. If we have enough room, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we can get the full 4 points if we go melee row. I don't remember / can't theorize what your last card might be. We have a Place of Power soon after, right? maybe just a little cleanse might be enough. Give ourselves slightly larger buffer, because I am not sure what this is. It's still, we were fine. Not very big. We're fine. We're fine. Okay, add or subtract. Bloody Baron. Reset, potentially give bleeding. I mean, we don't have great ability to shut down highly powered cards on our opponent's side. So it does kind of cover for a weakness, but on the other hand, it just doesn't really synergize with anything else in our deck. So in that way, it's a little awkward. Marilorn does trigger a Bronze Allied Unit's Death Wish ability, which does have some synergies. Obviously, the gold Death Wish cards we have are generally better than the bronze ones, although we don't really have much of like gold Death Wish, do we? You. So what couldn't we trigger with that? Couldn't trigger you. Couldn't trigger you. I guess that's it. Let's just see what the remove options would be. No way. You or you, or, I mean, it's reveal a random unit from your opponent's deck and boost self by its power. It's just a huge dice roll, no idea what you're going to get out of it, so don't think that makes a lot of sense for us. I guess we go Bloody Baron. Alright, so next, it is another battle, but after that, we have a place of power that we can potentially visit. And then 2 more battles and another place of power, and then we are at the boss. So we're getting close. Let's see who we end up with here. Okay. This guy has been very threatening in the past. However, I think the deck that we have is much more effective against him, because his thing is he spawns and plays, and it is a hard version of him. See, I think it's cooldown 2 for the hard version, cooldown 4 for the normal version. It's almost always the hard version that we see, but creates a copy of one of our cards if it has spying, and so if we have a really high powered card that has received a lot of boosts, then he can create a copy of it including those boosts, and potentially do that numerous times. So if we had a highly boosted card like a really highly boosted Slizzard, then that would be an issue. But for the most part, the Slizzard is just there to, you know, facilitate some destruction, and not nearly as much of a primary source of points as it was compared to the previous run. So we definitely want to be careful that we don't get too carried away with this, because this would be the obvious target for them to give spying to and try to create copies of. Axel also can be a very big card, but if we play him last, then I believe they will not have the chance to do that to him. So that's fine. Just means we want to play small stuff at the beginning. Things like the Night Wraith would be great. We could use Bloody Baron. In fact, actually, allow them to create at least one Slizzard. Highly boosted Slizzard would be fine. And then we can reset it with the Bloody Baron. If they create multiple highly boosted Slizzards, then that starts to become more of an issue. But Catechin is also kind of nice, because the Catechin itself doesn't give that much value. I mean, they'll still get the deploy ability and get 10 points out of it once the 3-point Ekimara spawns in, but you know, as long as we don't destroy the Catechin, then they should only get 10, whereas we'll get 13 out of it in all likelihood. So they probably don't have the means to do the consumption on it, unless they steal this and they steal the Slizzard, but I don't know. I mean, we could potentially find other things that are more specifically valuable to us, like Ethereal would be, I think, the perfect play against this guy in some ways, because sure, they might steal a 9-point card, but I have no idea if they would use this properly. They could very well just end up accidentally using Ethereal to transform what would otherwise be important cards for them, and they won't be able to spawn in nearly as many things as we'll be able to spawn in, so we'll be able to power or scale Ethereal much more effectively than they can. So for that reason, I would probably like to get this. And if we can put Cloak of Invisibility, works once. on it, but I think the subsequent ethereals would not get it. I mean, this is still a good way to prevent them from putting spying on a highly boosted card, because the Slizzard, for example, if it gets Veil, could never get the spying status. Do we have anything else that has Veil? I don't think so. So I think we do try to swap you out. Dalmar's another card that would be way better for us than them, because we're going to have a lot more units than they will, probably. So, I mean, he'll deal a lot of damage for us. He'll deal some damage, but probably not nearly as much for them. So he's not bad. Guess we can keep him and maybe swap out a Night Wraith. And but then again, what's going to be our first turn play? If not Dalmar, or if not a Night Wraith, it could be a proactive Bloody Baron, I suppose, or a Slizzard. But we're going to invite the spying if we play that first. So I do kind of like this. Not perfectly optimized, but that's kind of the idea, is to force them into stealing some not great cards. Oh, also we can convert cards that have spying into cards that do not have spying, and in doing so, remove the status and prevent them from stealing things potentially. We'd like to do that on weak cards, but still something to consider here. So gonna do this first because it's a bad card, and if they try to steal it, they're not going to get much value out of it. On the other hand, we could use Tears of the Dragon to convert a rat into potentially something much bigger. I might deliberately wait until their next turn, once they've already used this ability, and it's on cooldown, so that we have more time to, react if we happen to find something totally amazing here. That way we're not just handing it over to them. So, I think we'll actually wait. It does mean that we'll have a little less time to use the Tears of the Dragon, but I think we can still accept that. So this should be something that gives us spying immediately. Hoakim. I mean, he starts off as a spy. They get something else that gives us spying, and they'll put it on you. And they can create additional Hoakims. Okay, that's not a bad option for them. We would... Ooh, that's a Glusty that actually does have setup? What? A tiny bit at that. That's... extremely lucky for them. Yeah. So here's the thing, we could use something like Karen and immediately consume all of our cards that have the spying on them, and this has immunity, so they won't be able to give it spying unless they get a fur card out here, which can randomly give spying to cards without needing to manually target them. So obviously I hate that they got some highly boosted cards here, but on the other hand, we can reset one of them with Bloody Baron. So one big card is not an issue. The fact that they have two is obviously more problematic, but I think we'd like to wait to play Karen. Their leader ability is on cooldown here, so I think we might go Harpy. I mean, it's on one hand, it's definitely our worst card, so we kind of like, if we are going to give them a card to use their leader ability on, we'd like for it to be the Harpy Egg, which would suggest that should be what we play in our next turn. But if so, what are we doing here? It might kind of have to be you, because I'm not really seeing a great alternative here. And I think what we do is we convert a Hoakim. Yes, it's a 4-power card, but as we just saw, it's a 4-power card that they can use. If they use their leader ability on it, it might not be quite as effective as stealing a highly boosted Slizzard, but it's not bad. Oh, and on our previous run, we had said many times, theorized that we might accidentally convert something into a Villain Trettenmirth, which would mean destroying the highest card on the board, not named Villain Trettenmirth. And right now, that would be this Glusty. So this is the preferred way to use Villain Trettenmirth. It's not like it's always a bad card. It just never synergized with the decks we had before. It does this time. It does this time, though. Cantarella will steal a card from our deck. That makes me kind of concerned because we do have some big cards in our deck. It is ethereal. I really wanted that, and we were going to draw into it. I hate you so much right now for stealing it. On the other hand, it was a card that we said we had doubts they would be able to play effectively. Okay, so now, at the end of our turn, Villain Trettenmirth will destroy Glusty. Then we can use Bloody Baron to destroy you. We'd probably like to target that Ethereal with a Masterful Thunder. Sure, there's nothing next to it, but it's mostly just because in doing so, it weakens it. And so if they do end up creating additional Ethereals, all those subsequent Ethereals are going to be much weaker. And, or, we Hjalmar here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potentially damage on you. I think we might just go leader ability. Especially because they are about to get their leader ability back on this turn. Which means if we don't destroy these spying cards, they will replay one of them. So this looks like this is a decent time to go Karen here. And it means we aren't going to trigger this Death Wish, but we will at least trigger this one. And shut down, potentially altogether, their leader ability. So I would like to do that, I think. Oh, hold on. Before we do that, let's double check the math. We want to make sure that we're still destroying Glusty with Phil and Trettenmirth. Because if we destroy you guys, fortunately that's not that much. That's what, 8-point boost, which will get you up to a 14, which means it is still Glusty getting destroyed. Yeah, we're fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. And as long as they don't destroy these, it does give us additional solid targets for the Tears of the Dragon, unless they give something else, some spying, in which case we have options over there. But there goes Glusty. Beautiful. Pact. Bigger boost on... Oh, no, not on Ethereal. That was actually smart. That's really hoping they're going to do it on Mage Torturer, and then we could just reset and get even more value out of that. Because, yeah, now, if they do use this Ethereal, it is almost guaranteed to give them a lot of value. So that is suddenly much scarier. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage from this Hjalmar would drop you down to a 9 again, which is something. But is that reason to once again use a Masterful Thunder? I was not thinking we were going to need to do that, but we kinda, sorta might. I mean, in some ways right now, this is a more important target to reset with the Bloody Baron than this is. I mean, you have 9 base power because we upgraded it with all the base power. So it's not going to be reducing as many points, but this has more potential to scale than this does. So... I mean, I think it's Hjalmar either way. But before we do that, let's convert this and see what we get. Ooh.
I'll break you.
Istrid's not bad. Obviously, base power is better, but also allows us to draw cards and swap those with the ones in our hand, and potentially in doing so get rid of something like Harpy Egg, which is pretty weak. Maybe Slizzard. Probably going to keep Axel, but... You know, there are definitely some big things still hanging out in our deck that we'd like to pick up here. So that could be useful. I think we'll probably wait at least one more turn before using him. So we have more cards we draw and more potential to get the big stuff. So let's still go Hjalmar. Might this even be worth actually Rat Swarming and increasing his damage? At that point, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 4, 10. Drop you down to 5 is not bad. I think we might do that. That's kind of a happy middle ground. It's technically an 8-point Rat Swarm, 4 points here and 4 points in the extra damage on Hjalmar. And again, if they give him spying, then it's not a big problem because they have 2 cards compared to our 10. So much less valuable to them than it is to us. Okay, Emissary. They're going to keep on trying to pour the boost on this guy. They are. They are. They're going to do it again? They are. They're being smart about the boost recipients. The problem is if they continue to create we might just need to Bloody Baron this. We might need to do that. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on getting stuck, having to go one source of damage after another on this guy. I mean, yes, we do another Hjalmar, which would be, at this point, 11 damage on you, which is not bad. We need to do something to weaken you, otherwise you're gonna have way too much scaling potential. So is it Bloody Baron? Is it Hjalmar? I guess we can go Hjalmar here, and that gives us a little more time to decide when and where the most optimal time to use Bloody Baron is. I think that's the way we go about doing it. We could use Rat Swarm, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have room for 3 more cards here, and if we do that, then we're almost completely out of space. And we have a Slizzard that can potentially make some more room for us, but that's not really something we want to be doing against this guy, because then we invite the Slizzard to become the next target for them to put spying on.
Yarmoron fate coming for ya.
Okay, well, as I said, I mean, we are technically dealing damage right now faster than they are boosting him, but it's just a fight that is difficult to win. Now, if we let them continue to boost nonstop, then we could have reset all those things in one fell swoop with Bloody Baron. So that's the balancing act, is, you know, I'm trying to guess when they're going to stop boosting him. They keep on doing it. So if I'd known they were going to keep on doing him without playing any more units, then obviously Bloody Baron would have been better, but 20/20 hindsight, right? Didn't know that was going to happen. So they also, next turn, will use Emissary unless we convert it. Oh, well, we have 2 of them. Well, that's no good. That's no good. Okay. I think this is probably the turn we use Istrid. Ooh, some interesting options here. What do we have in our graveyard for SHANI? Some of their cards we could turn around and use against them, like a Hoakim, would be potentially quite good. So that's tempting. So I think SHANI can stay. Cyclops can stay. So we like the damage, and in fact, might, or more importantly, like getting rid of the spying units, and that's one way to do it. We could use Cyclops to get rid of you, and convert the other one with Tears of the Dragon. So I like you on this turn specifically for that reason, or I suppose Elias does the same thing, but as we were saying before, we're running a little bit low on the bro space. And Cyclops does it without taking up more room, whereas you do. So I think we're dumping you. We may dump the Slizzard. If we do that, we significantly limit our ability to get rid of units. So we might need to keep him. There are not a lot of units on the board, so I am questioning the value of Werecat. I think we might need to dump you. And then I think it's Elias. Okay. So Cyclops destroys one of these guys, and I mean, we'll continue to just hit you, I suppose. And we'll convert the other one. Ooh, Barghest can consume and therefore destroy a spying unit. However, he of course will get bigger in the process, so it's a little bit risky if we're consuming something big, but let's do this to hopefully deny them the opportunity to use their leader ability on this turn, because there are not currently any spying units. Unless they can make one right now, and they can.
Your humble
They're also
shame I have
really flooding our roads with all those things. So it's probably for that reason just about necessary for us to get the Slizzard out now, so that we can consume you. We're only gonna have one chance to use SHANI, I think, and even then, might not have much room to do so. I mean, we can consume one of these emissaries, but we might wait to do so. In fact, if we are completely full on both our rows, and they only have spies left in their hand, we could theoretically completely shut them down. I think we've had that happen against this enemy on one prior occasion. Ooh, okay, well, they will steal probably the Slizzard, right? That's gonna hurt a lot. That is unfortunate. Ooh, okay, and it gets worse. That's exactly what we did not want them to do. Yep. That's why we were so concerned about shutting down the Ethereal earlier, because if they start creating 25 power copies of this unit, we are in serious trouble. And they did just that. So, we probably just lost. I don't know that there's any way we can win. Yeah. We're using leader building next turn, which, if we fill both rows, they would not be able to do anything with the emissary. So tell you what, I think we actually do not convert an emissary right now. We take the risk betting that they are not going to find another way to put spying on one of our cards. We go SHANI, and we use SHANI to play Joachim. Play Joachim in this row, so they can't create another ethereal. And then we're going to, on our next turn, use Barghest to consume one of these guys and make some room for the Bloody Baron. And then we won't have room for Axel 3 Eyes, which is not ideal. Wait. Oh, no, if we play SHANI this turn, and the card we get out from our deck is Joachim, we're playing Joachim on their side of the board because it's a spying unit. That means there is still one more row for them to do something. One more spot for them to do something. So we may need to instead go the consume and convert route on this turn, I think. I think that is probably the case. And even with well, actually, then again, SHANI, Joachim gives us a card from their deck and boosts it by 8, which, when we play that unit, will fill the other row. So, yes, we can actually use SHANI here.
I'm a medic. I tend to know what I'm doing when I prescribe something.
Play Joachim needs to be here in that melee row. All right, it's from our deck. What am I saying? I mean, it has to be here, right? So, not really any options there. So this should brick their leader ability unless they happen to be able to put spying on another card. We probably still use Tears of the Dragon to convert one of these emissaries into something else, assuming that it'll be more valuable than whatever we receive. Rather, more valuable than what we have right here. Would have loved this. Deployability. And then again, I mean, the only thing we'd be able to do it against would be Joachim. If we can consume one of you, that'd be amazing. Okay, so they one spying unit. It's spies, so they can't use it here, but they can. Yep. Okay, they brick it. They deal 3 damage, but it's not enough for them to catch us, fortunately. Could you please end your turn? Thank you. Okay, so now what we do is we use Barghest to consume a card, and in doing so, that gives us just enough space to play one of these guys, so we need to prioritize. Is it Bloody Baron that we prefer, or is it Axel 3 Eyes? Axel 3 Eyes is going to give us a humongous boost, but if they have another way to get spying, they will still have one more turn in which to use that leader ability. So that's not very safe. If it's Bloody Baron, then we can reset this 26 power ethereal, and in doing so, if they try to create more of them, limit that to just 9 points. Which is what we had for a long time said we wanted to do, but we're deliberately waiting till the end to decide the biggest unit to use it on. That obviously came back to bite us to a certain extent, but also if we consume something in the melee row, we can use Bloody Baron immediately and guarantee that we get this resetting. If we play you in the range row, it takes one more turn to use you, but we get functionally 1 turn of bleeding. This is 1 extra point. I think we take the guarantee over the 1 extra point because we just saw that with their last card they played, they locked a unit. So if they have any more of that, they could shut down Bloody Baron, and that would obviously be a humongous problem. So I think what we're doing is we're consuming whatever the smallest card we can get in the melee row would be, and that is this Toad Prince. Would prefer if it were something a little bit smaller, but we go Bloody Baron, and we use this to immediately reset this ethereal down from a 25 to a 9. So that's a pretty big play, but we probably cannot play Axel on our next turn. Masterful Thunder, yeah, cannot hit ourselves. It's going to say if we do it like here, we deal 3 damage to ourselves, yes, but we create space for ourselves, which could be beneficial for Axel 3 Eyes, but alas, that's not going to happen unless they destroy one of our cards here. So what we may want to do is use a leader ability of some variety here. Obviously, it can't be the Rat Swarm, but it could be Thunder, and it could be on you, in case they have any intention of using this again. And that's the part where I was thinking that they would be dumb and have a really weak ethereal after we damaged it, and be potentially still dumb enough to use it and create additional copies of it and make even more weak units that are weaker than what they were previously. But no, they just non-stop applied boost after boost on it, even after we gave all the damage in the world, threw it at the ethereal. It's not a great roll there, but Thaw will, I'm sure, boost it again. Yep. Okay. So we can convert someone else. Best possible situation would be if somehow we converted into somebody who could immediately consume. But even the Vargas would take a turn before it could do that. So I don't think that's even possible. But we'll do it because it's likely to still give us more value.
Clearly, I've a weakness for horned wenches.
I mean, it's Elias, and it's 5 extra base power, so we'll take it. It means we still can't play Axel, but we accepted that that was likely to be the case. And that means that they will get leader ability back. They cannot use it unless they, at least not with Emissary, unless their last card gives Spying to one of our cards, one of our other cards, and they can then play a copy of that. But, I mean, what would be the best option for them? Karen, they can't do that too because it has immunity. So it would be a 12 power rare werecat when we have a row full of units in both cases, which would be worth a lot. Actually, how much would that be worth? It'd be 12 plus 8 here for 20, or 12 plus 8 here because we have a shield for, again, 20, which is not quite enough for them to catch us, but plus whatever this card is, and it may be. So that's a little scary. I think we may still want to use a leader ability charge here, because otherwise we might lose. So it's probably worth not losing. So yes, Ethereal would potentially create an 8 power card. I don't think that's going to be enough of a difference maker to, well, I mean, we could Thunder on you and shut down, or at least significantly weaken, any potential for using this Ethereal Order ability, or we could use it on Joachim and probably get more damage, because if we get Overkill, we're going to also get it on Mage Torturer. Then again, I suppose, and that really doesn't matter, because that means at most we're talking still 8 damage, and we can still do 8 damage to you. So might as well do it to you. And it's the full 8. We spent so long trying to shut down that card, and on our second to last turn it happens. We use Axel, and by use Axel I mean we can't use Axel, so it just gets discarded. So it is a 42-point lead. They try to use the lead ability on the Emissary. It does not work. What was their last card from their hand, though? Because that's the question. I think they probably needed to have something to set up leader building. Without that, Thaw is obviously not enough. So as it turns out, the last round of leader building was not necessary. Did it just in case, because this guy is pretty scary. But didn't all go according to plan. We still made it work, thankfully. Thought we were going to be able to match up reasonably well against him, but he did what I thought he would not be able to do, and that is actually use an effective Ethereal. I dared him to do it, and he did. Okay, we could get another Slizzard for more consumption. Might not be super necessary. Spawn a 1-power copy of a unit from your hand on this row. Technically, that does work for SHANI. What else would we want? An extra copy of Bloody Baron could potentially work. Deploy abilities wouldn't trigger because this is spawn, so Axel does not work. Hjalmar doesn't work. Ethereal, I mean, it works, but it's a 1-power Ethereal, which is counterproductive. Werecat, I mean, you can still trigger the Thrive and trigger the Death Wish, but that's not great. Slizzard, I think, is what we did previously with our old run, where we did get Karen Thier, and just meant more consumption to set up Detloff, but that's not as necessary now. So, I mean, yes, 2 Shanis would be kind of nice, but if we have only one card that this works with, then that's highly questionable. Drog, on the other hand, I think we might have also had in the previous run. We had it in some recent run at some point. The ability to spawn in a bunch of 1-power cards on a whim with our leader ability. With Rat Swarm, get 4 1-power cards, convert them all into K20 Revenants. Yes, they're going to stay on 1 power because they don't shift power, but potentially a way to get a lot more value out of those. And I think it's not bad against the dragon specifically. So we might prefer this, I'm thinking. Did not even see what... Probably should at least check what the remove option was. But Drog is pretty decent. Okay. Definitely going to go Place of Power here. And if we didn't have to blow through a bunch of energy in the previous encounter, would have been nice to perhaps... I think this is remove a card, right? Yeah, would have been nice to remove a card. I think we probably need to load up on energy here. There's one more Place of Power later on, I believe, and I think it is also a red one. So if we really want to remove a card, like one of those, what is it, Indriga eggs, then that might be our last chance to do so. Hopefully we don't need the energy then. But on this occasion, I still kind of feel like we do. Alright, so that means we technically could still go down, but I think we would... It's basically 3 battles, or 2 battles and a Place of Power, or 3 battles. So I'll take the 2 battles and a Place of Power, I think. Okay, this guy, now they're just throwing all of the worst enemies at us, one after the other. In theory, I would like to believe this is another guy that we actually have a better matchup against than other decks would have. Now, he's still pretty bad, but it's not the hard version of him, thankfully. Bloodthirst 9, wow. Okay, so yeah, this is a guy that if he gets that Bloodthirst ability, will destroy all of our units. The reason why I think we're okay against this guy is, yes, we tend to have a lot of cards on the board. However, for the most part, those are 1-power cards. So if they take damage, they're destroyed, which means they're not going to get the Bloodthirst to activate. So I think we want to try to lean into that approach with things like Night Wraith. Hjalmar obviously can get damage, but he would get powered up by those. I think we don't like Harpy Egg very much because, I mean, it is probably our weakest card, and yes, we can trigger the Death Wish, but in doing so, we spawn in another card that is more than 1 power, so it's not that easy to circumvent the Warlord with you. So Night Wraith is definitely better. And Cyclops we could use to destroy a 1-power card, or rather a damage card, so that's good as well. Elias could also serve that purpose, although flooding our row with units that could easily become damaged is definitely not what we want to do, so I think we get rid of you, and Cloak of Invisibility is a big boost. And this is more 1-power units to spawn in, so this looks good. This does look good. I think we start with Germain, and we might boost him immediately because he's vulnerable to becoming damage granted. Germain and Germain alone is obviously not enough for them to trigger the Bloodthirst ability, and they're not going to do it on turn 1 anyway, so probably don't need to overreact like that. We can save a little bit of energy.
Begone! Begone, you devils!
Don't see a gap in their armor. Make one.
Because this is damage. Thing with Tears of the Dragon, normally we'd use it on these 1-power cards. We kind of want to keep these, because otherwise whatever we get in here is likely to be something that is more easily damaged. So we could Cloak of Invisibility on Germain, and get him high enough up that it is just about impossible for them to destroy or make him damaged. He's not a bad target because he does have some long-term potential, but you know, if we do end up getting something like SHANI, probably prefer to put it on her or Ethereal. Although if we get a highly boosted Ethereal, it's fine. If we don't get any boost on Ethereal, then this becomes an easy way for them to get a bunch of damaged cards. So he's high risk in that way. I think we can wait a little bit before committing to this. Hjalmar, on the other hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is enough to destroy this on-crate longship, which is great setup for them. So to shut that down early is pretty tempting. Even if it's not our highest possible damage, Hjalmar, I think we still take this opportunity to take you out. And we have confirmed that it counts himself when we're counting the damage. And again, I'm deliberately not going to use Tears of the Dragon unless and until one of our cards that has more than 1 power becomes damaged, especially a card that, actually has already used its ability, like Hjalmar. Then we could potentially destroy him and then bring him back with SHANI if we do get SHANI, but that remains to be seen. And again, so their whole deck is built around triggering this leader ability, doing little bits and pieces of damage, but if doing 1 damage destroys a card, then it's not going to be a damaged card. It's going to be a no longer existing card. So that was the idea. And Drog, as we were saying before, could work well with this deck because with lots of ways to get the Revenants. They're going to be 1 powered Revenants, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to make those work. Also, the Revenants, the 1 power Revenants, if they get destroyed, fine. The other 3 power Revenants that get spawned in if we do destroy something, those are easy to make damage. So it's a little scary. I mean, those could become the recipients of Tears of Dragon, I suppose. And we also could do Night Wraith and get even more. I mean, let's go for it. It's a little bit risky because it does kind of go against. Oh, also it converted Jermaine, but we're gonna get a little bit of extra value out of him, not a lot. So I think it's fine.
Who's next? Any of you's got the courage?
All right, well, bye-bye, Revenants. So, I mean, it was going to happen to the cows as well, but we could have saved Drog for later. Now we have 3 damage cards, so we need to be a little bit careful. This would potentially be a time for us to do some conversions here, but I think let's at least use this Revenant to spawn something else in, because we can get the death blow. Thing is, now we have 4 cards that are either damaged, or 3 that are damaged, and 1 that will easily become damaged if we don't change something here. So this is where we need to be a little bit careful that we don't get too carried away with this. Don't like the Harpy Egg. We want things that easily get boosted. Things like, say, a Slizzard to just consume all the damage stuff and pay it no mind. So we are probably going to use Tears of the Dragon here. Probably to convert this, maybe even this Revenant. It's worth 1 less point. So it's a higher risk, but it doesn't have its order ability yet. Did I say it's a higher risk? It's a lower risk because it's 1 less power, but it has the order ability, so they're functionally 4 points apiece. And we could Cyclops to get rid of something. We could Cyclops, destroy this damage unit, and get rid of the Bear Abomination. That's not a terrible idea to get rid of a damaged card. Hjalmar would be the best card to convert if we didn't have any intention of later using SHANI to get him out from our graveyard and play him again, because if he gets converted into something else, then it's no longer Hjalmar. But we only have 1 more card that we're going to draw, and we have 11 cards in our deck, so we have a 1 in 11 chance of it being SHANI, which is pretty low. It's not 0, but it is a low chance. I think we do this then. Well,
cheated. It will not be.
Swap the 3 power card for a different 3 power card. The previous one was damaged, this one is not, so it's marginally better in that way. We also probably should be using some energy here. Well, maybe. More damage from the Berserker. So yeah, this is why we would like to have just 1 powered cards here that, if they get hit, get destroyed. Game, why do you do this to me? I swear it is listening to everything I say and is just trying to mess with me on every possible occasion. That is at least the third time something like that has happened to us on this run. Well, we can get 1 power revenants back, or we can get the Drog back. And when Drog converts things into revenants, they remain damaged if they were already damaged. So like switching a 2 power revenant into a new 2 power revenant is still going to appear damaged, even if its base power was 3. It's not going to set a revenant to base power 2. So, I mean, we should get Shani out, but on the other hand, don't really have anything that we want to convert. I mean, we could convert you into a revenant with this Drog. I guess. Also, we can get the death blow, so like, I guess we will, even though that's kind of dangerous. I suppose.
It's war. Severed limbs, blood, and death.
Play you this row, because you are not doing anything important. You are. We are on 2 damage cards. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that could become damage. That would be 6. It's not enough by itself, but they do have some cards that can create damaged units out of the ether. So I think it is worth doing some boosting here. I think we do need to. And I think the objective here is not so much to just barely get damage cards to the point where they're no longer damaged. I think the point is more so get something high enough that it is significantly boosted, so much that it is going to be hard for it to become damaged. So we'll take something that's still on base power and get it up to a 3-point boost there. And also use Cloak Invisibility, which we'll perhaps like to do soon.
Don't see a gap in their armor. Make one.
Yeah, that's a way to get a whole bunch of damage cards.
Best yield now.
1, 2, 3, 4 from the melee row Yennefer. And I mean, we'll technically can trigger this death blow if we put both revenants on you, and then we can convert one of them. But again, spawning more revenants is a risk, because getting more cards on the board is generally not something we want to do. It just makes it easier for them to trigger this. So don't love that. I mean, unless the cards we're getting are 1 base power cards, like we would get with the Night Wraith. So we also only have 1 more way to destroy cards, which means we're gonna have to be very choosy about what Death Wish we're triggering here. Is it Night Wraith number 1, Night Wraith number 2, or Harpy Egg? I think it's probably gonna be Night Wraith, because as we were saying, this just means more units that can become damaged. These cannot. So I suppose we still do this, or we could go after Yennefer. I guess we'll do that. Spawn you in, convert one of you. It has armor, and it actually can get boosted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus 1, 2, 3. It will get boosted, and it has armor, so that's something that will, in theory, be a little bit tricky for them to damage. So that was actually very nice for us to pick that up. And we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. So for them to trigger this, they would need to spawn in 2 more and have everything be damaged. That is possible. That is still possible. We need to boost something. So technically, you are the one that is most difficult to become damaged. So I think we use it on you. Oh, we still haven't played anything this turn. Oh. Okay, also Cyclops could just be here to destroy something that's damaged, because that's not a bad option either. This 2-point damaged, or damage by 2-point Drog, so it's going to be a little bit tough to get him back to the point where he's boosted. And it's 5 points of damage, which is obviously not bad. And we could lower this Spare Abomination down to 1 to get into removal range for this Revenant. I think that's probably what we do here, and we just accept that these Death Wish will probably not get triggered. So get rid of 1 damage card through that way, and leader ability covered another as well. You'll get boosted from your ability. That's useful too. Damage 2 units. Yes, they're trying to go after this guy, but he remains boosted, so that is nice. Still boosted by 3. Okay, so now we target you again. We're playing with fire, technically speaking. It's good for putting up points. Yes, it's not good for avoiding their leader ability. So it might be time to go with Cloak of Invisibility on SHANI and get her boosted up enough that she is definitely not going to be damaged, and make her immune so that we can, bring back another Drog? We could. We could. We'll see. We'll see. I actually like that a bunch of our damage cards are on 1 power here, because if they do a bunch of damage to every unit, then they're going to remove 2 damage cards.
I could do this all day.
Ooh, except they can chain a whole lot of that together, except that's actually kind of nice. You did that completely suboptimally. Almost the worst possible way. But you had a way to do 3, then 2, then 1 damage, but it does remove some of our damage cards. I mean, I guess if you were trying to keep damage cards, then kind of succeeded. But oh, I mean, we were previously using Grog in the melee row to convert these guys, and that's fine, except for the Ice Troll we'd like to keep so that it continues to get boosted, because this is a really nice option for us. So I think what we'll do... Do we even want to use SHANI this turn? It has to be unit, right? Play unit? Yeah. Can't, like, get another Cloak of Invisibility? That'd be amazing. Technically could get a Revenant. A 1-point Revenant actually is the best. Again, because we have a decent lead here. So points-wise, we're doing okay, but we just don't want to tempt fate too much and risk that they trigger the Bloodthirst 9. So having a 1-power card, again, means if it gets damaged, it gets destroyed, so it's not going to contribute toward that at all. So I think that is perhaps what we do with SHANI, or we just wait and see if they destroy something else that's more valuable. But I think that's kind of unlikely. If anything, they're going to destroy more Revenants, so it's not really going to change the equation at all. So let's do this. Guess we'll put you here.
We retreat. We hide. Someone
And then we convert the one that is damaged. You know, that is a card we'd like to destroy with consumption. But, oh right, that's SHANI and Tears of Siren, or rather Tears of the Dragon. We've not yet played anything from hand. So I guess it's you.
Your blood will warm my bones.
Again, more 1-powered cards makes us a little bit more resistant to the Bloodthirst. Do we need to boost anything up? Let's see. 1, 2, 3 cards that are highly boosted. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that they could damage. Means they need to get 5 more damage cards on the board in 1 turn to trigger this. I don't think they can, even if they use a card that spawns in more damage units. And that is one of them. That is arguably their best one.
drink with our forefather.
Okay. So we can destroy you if we really wanted to, but I'm not really sure that we do. And then we can spawn in, or Night Wraiths spawn in more 1-powered rats, which I think is a good thing, because then we can avoid having them flood our row with damaged cards. Because that is the biggest risk, I think. So if we do 1 and 2. Then play you. Rows completely full. So both rows. They can't do anything to put more units on our side. They could certainly still destroy stuff, but how many damage cards do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then how many cards can they make damaged? They have 4, then add 1, 2, 3. Well, really. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They could potentially trigger, and pretty easily, in fact, trigger their leader ability on this turn, and they will be off cooldown. This is every other turn, right? Not every turn? Yeah, every other turn. We need something to get boosted big time here. So, needs to be a cleanse, and something that is not damaged So, I mean, a Night Wraith, I guess. So, if they can damage one of our boosted cards and everything else that is on base power, then they win. If they can't, then we probably win. Think it's unlikely. That is obviously really good, though. And extremely close to making that happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damaged cards. We will definitely convert one of them here. Okay, 10 base power, which is nice for sure. It's not damaged, but they obviously could make it damaged. So 1, 2, 3, 4 now, and we can definitely boost one to make it no longer damaged. What else could they? Their best way to spawn in other damaged cards was Patricide. I think it's oftentimes Wild Boar of the Sea is their finisher, which means damage everything by 1, and if it's already damaged, damage it by 2, which would mean you become damaged, or you two become damaged, you get destroyed. So on net, they gain 1 more damaged card for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 6 once you add in this Harpy Egg. It's kind of close. Case could have been made for not playing this. Actually, pretty strong case could have been made for not playing this. I don't think we need to cleanse. Assuming that it's Wild Boar of the Sea, we don't need to cleanse. Damage-wise, how much value does it give? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We spawn in 2 rats, so net 12. Plus, Wild Boar of the Sea is base 3 or base 4 power? It used to be 3, but might be 4 now. So, it's like 16-ish. Is not enough. Again, assuming that that is what they're using, but it's pretty close. So that's not a super safe bet to be making. So I think, well, obviously we'll take the damage. Help us out a tiny bit. And I think we should cleanse. Think we should. It may very well be overkill, but we should do it on a card that is on base power. Should be pretty safe now. It is Wild Boar of the Sea. Okay, so we should be safe if my mental math was right. Yep, we're good. Close, but we're good. Okay, can add. Where rat consumes. But, I mean, we are definitely starting to run out of row space pretty frequently, so it's not a terrible idea to get some additional consumption, but at the same time, he is also very boost-centric, and we can't stop him from consuming, which means if he, for example, gets frozen by the dragon, then he can no longer receive boosts unless we destroy one of the wings, and he is reducing our point total every turn, which kinda stinks. Really wanted to see a Harpy Egg there. Oh man, we cannot skip. We can re-roll for 3 energy if we want. And Wish Apprentice also is a boosting card, which is generally not the way you want to go against the dragon, so is Nausicaa Sergeants. None of these are good against the dragon. And we are getting close to said dragon. Really can't. I mean, we could dump Hjalmar just because we have 2 of them, but that's obviously a good thing that we have 2 of them. I guess it's Were Rat. And we just pray that he doesn't get frozen by the dragon. Okay, another fork in the road. It's battle, or it's battle, place of power, and I think the answer should definitely be battle, place of power. So let's go here. Okay, we've seen the succubus on a few prior occasions. Does she bleed? No, she steals weak cards, right? Yeah, if it has, ooh. If it has 2 power or less. All these abilities that didn't really give that much thought to, but as soon as we're actually focusing on playing a bunch of weak power cards, you realize just how many leader abilities counter that. So this is one of them. I mean, like, how concerned are we about them stealing a 1 power rat or 1 power cow? Maybe not all that concerned. But so this would be a match in which we'd actually kind of like to focus on channeling most of our boosts on 1 unit. So seeing the Slizzard is not bad. Could steal Kyomar somewhat easily, which would be unfortunate. They can definitely steal Werecat pretty easily, which would also be unfortunate. This is no cooldown. Wow. Honestly, that might be the biggest part. Stop giving us the freaking Harpy Egg. There's Wererat. So it is a good way to channel points on 1 specific card. But, we now don't have much set up for Kyomar at the moment. Is that reason enough to drop him? I mean, it is all, besides Werecat and Hjalmar. I mean, it's 3 destroying / consumption cards, so it's kind of extreme. It's kind of extreme. Stop giving me this card. I know we have 2 of them, but my goodness, it's like every card in our deck is one of these Harpy Eggs. There's definitely some cards we've never seen. We've never seen Catechin. We've never drawn into it. That might be the only one we've never drawn into. I was gonna say, it's just like, oh no, we might have mulliganed it out once. I think we did. I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, so many Harpy Eggs that there are some things that are just never things that we'll see. So, I think what we do here, I imagine, I don't remember specifically, but I imagine that's pretty sure she doesn't just wait for us to play stuff that's low power. She actually damages and then sets up the steal. So if we do play something that doesn't immediately get boosted and everything takes some time to get boosted here, then she's probably gonna weaken it and then proceed to steal it. So like, Werecat would be the best first turn play here, but we can't play Werecat without boosting it, otherwise they're gonna immediately steal it. It has to be 2 or less power, so they just need to damage it by 1. Is that guaranteed? No, but it's pretty darn sure. Pretty much a sure thing that that's gonna happen. So we could play it and then use Cleanse. Is that enough to avoid the steal? That I'm not sure of. We could play the Harpy Egg and just say, you know what, if you want it, take it. But that's still not a great option. You know, if we're gonna quite literally hand them a card, we might as well discard it. So, I mean, Slizzard would also be a good first card to play. We definitely want to boost that up so that doesn't get stolen, because if it does, then that would also be a big issue. Maybe we do that, either Slizzard or Wererat. Yeah, Wererat is technically 1 point bigger, so maybe that's slightly better. It would be pretty difficult, I would think, to weaken that down into stealing range. Nithral, okay. To try to whittle down a card. It's not going to be fast enough, though. Axel is a good point slam if we can get a bunch of cards on the board, although we kind of went a different route here. Wererat can get a bunch of cards on the board, although playing them in the range row means it's going to be harder to fit in Axel. So I think what we do is we play Harpy Egg here, and that means that Wererat will immediately consume it at the end of our turn. So that means no weak cards, and Wererat is just getting bigger. And Yennefer will also try to weaken our big cards. We can... Technically speaking, Harpy Egg is actually not that bad in this circumstance. Now the game's gonna make me eat my words. But yeah, for all the bad things I've said about it, it immediately gets consumed, so we don't need to worry about this small card. It powers up Were-Rat. It gives us more big cards that are not out of the question that they get stolen, but certainly more difficult at the very least. So it's not bad. That's not bad. I think we'll probably do it. They're going to keep on trying to focus on this Were-Rat, but they're kind of struggling. Now, if they dedicate every last bit of damage they have, eventually they probably will be able to deal more damage than we're able to apply boosts, unless we put Cloak of Invisibility on it. Well, I'm not sure what the best way to use this is. It's very helpful for sure. Just, if we had to pick one card to receive it, what would it be? I mean, if we happen to get into an Ethereal, that'd be great. And imagine when remember when we drew into Ethereal? Good times, man. Remember when we had one good Ethereal setup and we completely bricked it? Not so good times, man. Yeah. So, technically, Yennefer can only hit the highest units. That would have to be Were-Rat. Mithral might continue to try to hit the tallest unit just so they can get to have the highest unit on the board to set him up for better damage in the future, rather than immediately short-term try to set up a steal. I say all this because can we sneak in a Slizzard here? Because on the first turn, it's a little bit vulnerable at just 5 power. But once it starts consuming more things, then it's another card that can get up very big very quickly and be very difficult for them to steal. So I would like to make that happen if we can, and it could also be potentially a good recipient of Cloak of Invisibility. I mean, we could play it and use Cleanse on it. We do have a place of power coming up after this. But obviously we'd like to save some power. If we can. I think we try it. Will they target it? We should probably boost it just in case. Just in case. We should do it. Still appear to be going after you. Okay, Ifrit, damage all units in the opposite row by 1. Gonna weaken you down to a 5, but I'm still not too concerned about that. Hey, we actually got the Catechin. I mean, and, you know, this is not a great card in this circumstance, actually, because a 3-power Akimara is a pretty stealable unit. So, you know, maybe now was not the best time for you to decide to give us this card on second thought. But, you know, whatever. So, we'll draw 0 more cards. Okay, so this is what we're going to work with. So, what I'd like to do is try to find the right time to play use Were-Rat's order ability, because he'll spawn in a bunch more 1-power rats, lose his boost, but spawn in the rats. Why do you want to do that? Yes, it does weaken him, which makes him more stealable. However, if we're going to consume a Harpy at the end of our turn anyway, then maybe we're fine about that. And it gets more units on the board, which is a way to set up things like Hjalmar and Axel 3 Eyes, which we would like to still be able to use, ideally. And I guess we could feed a Catechin to the Were-Rat, and then there's definitely a card that they can pretty easily set up for a steal, but it's an option. Just want to make sure we have enough room to do this, because it's, what, 6 rats we'd spawn in. We have 3 cards in this row right now, which means that would take up every last spot, and then we consume one of them. So there's 1 spot remaining, so on our next turn we can use Axel 3 Eyes. That might have to be the play, because we just don't have the setup to be spawning in a bunch of things in the melee row, I don't think. Not unless we happen to get something for Drog to convert and happen to chain a bunch of K20 Revenant Death Blows, but I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, we could go Catechin here, but with no way to consume it in that row, that's kind of questionable. So rather than getting the biggest possible Axel or the biggest possible Hjalmar, I think we instead go a little bit of the middle ground and make sure that we keep these guys highly boosted. let's do this. Oh, well, except do this. Do that first. Shouldn't need to consume anything with Slizzard. You'll consume this. You'll get back up to an 11. If they really want to, they can deal a fair bit of damage to you, but shouldn't get you into stealing range, and that should mean next turn we can still go with a highly boosted Axel 3 Eyes. We can convert one of you guys, but in doing so, we risk you being able to steal something, so I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, they will be able to steal a rat if they want to, but that's not going to be worth very much, so we're kind of okay with that, whereas if we happen to convert something into a 2-power, yeah, we do it. We will definitely do it. In fact, Morkvarg is amazing. We got him once before from a random conversion. Would have preferred to have had him closer to the were-rat, so he would have gotten consumed more quickly, but I think we will still have time to make that happen. Oh, we also haven't played anything on this turn. Well, we can use Slizzard to consume you this way, to expedite the process, which we may want to do. Or we can welcome invisibility, but I don't really think that's necessary. I mean, we could Hjalmar. Actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be 9 and 10 damage here. We could remove Yennefer, remove Nithral, or remove the Triad Boar, all of which are dealing damage over time, so they are valuable. So, which one is the most valuable, you ask? Nithral is 2 damage per turn if they have the highest power card, 1 damage per turn otherwise. Yennefer, minimum 1 damage per turn. If we have a lot of cards that have the same amount of power, then it becomes much more than that. You are 2 damage every other turn and healing every other turn. You're a lot more damage, ooh, but much slower. You have a lot of 1 power cards, which means they have a really nice Ifrit play. Once this comes off cooldown, this might actually be the best card for us to go after. Might actually be the best card for us to go after. Okay. And I won't do it yet, because we'd like to have as many units as possible for Axel. Ooh, I forgot they had Mage Infiltrator.
No worries, my lord. I'll remain unseen.
Yeah, they stole a rat, which is still not a huge problem. But that very nearly set up a Slizzard or a were-rat steal, which would have been pretty bad. So now let's go Axel. And what we could do is we can play a big Axel here and immediately have it get consumed by a were-rat, which means hopefully this gets out of removal range. Because this should be, it's not the biggest possible Axel, but it's a pretty big Axel.
Living and ancestors, all.
14 points, which you'll consume, get you into an 18. And let's consume Morkvarg for you to get you up to a 12. They're just gonna keep on trying to go after you. Vincent, reset a non-boosted enemy down to a 1, which meant Morkvarg was stealable. That was decent value there. But we avoided a really big loss on either of these guys, fortunately. We... Would Werecat get somewhat decent damage there, and then immediately consume you with Were-Rat for another round of damage? It's not out of the question. Could... Oh, we also have... We should probably do this. Oh, well, that's why you don't want to play this right next to Were-Rat, because this would have been another way to consume cards and consolidate our power further, except you're just going to get eaten. I mean, it means a bigger Were-Rat, so that's nice in that way, but could have... I mean, I guess it's fine. I was also thinking we'd go Catechin, though, and feed you to the Were-Rat, and immediately trigger your Death Wish, and the one that spawns in, the Ekimar that spawns in, immediately consume that with the Slizzard. I guess we could wait a turn before doing that. Yeah. Okay. In which case, I mean, we could Werecat here. I guess we will. And I may still consume you, because if this gets stolen, that's kind of unfortunate, and we don't really need more consumption when we have these two guys. consolidating most of our power here. Okay, still not great damage there. Should be going after a Kelmar, but they aren't for some reason. Okay. So now we could certainly go Catechin here and consume like crazy. That is an option. I mean, if we really wanted to, we could try to destroy this Treant Boar, because it's going to get healed when it moves back up to the range row. So we do have a guaranteed kill here, and then we can get overkill damage to hit Morkvarg, which might not be necessary per se. We only have a 7-point lead here. We've mostly just been trying to play around their build and not so much focusing on maximizing our points. So maybe shutting some of their stuff down wouldn't be a bad idea. Then we do this. We consume you, because you would be the worst card for them to steal, and then we eat you, getting the Were-Rat bigger, and it is going to spawn in another 3 power cards that could get stolen. If it gets damaged a little bit, certainly possible, but we shall see if they fixate on these guys. Well, that can make it happen. That will do the trick. Okay, so, well, that also would have been a great time to do some conversion, but alas, it won't happen here. I think this is what we do. I think we convert Hjalmar with Tears of the Dragon. Then we see what we get here. If we like it, then we... we're probably letting Drog on that road no matter what. So we don't really want to convert you guys. Technically, you've kind of already done your thing, but still.
I shall take back what is mine.
Okay. Yes, Flying Baba Yaga. We had that in our previous run, and it was fantastic. We scored. We had 2 Slizzards in our starting deck. Got a Siana, which we used with Caranthir to create another. We got at least 2 Slizzards, or at least 3 Slizzards. We had Detloff, Higher Vampire, upgraded once, although we had the option to upgrade it twice, and we should have, but we opted not to. And then we also had the Girdle of Giant Strength, and we scored 600 plus points on a boss, which was kind of hilarious and amazing, and does make me want to try to go absolutely all in, maximizing the points, probably with that same sort of setup, and just deliberately target as many elite battles as possible, and deliberately power up Detloff as much as possible, because, man, the potential is pretty insane. But, I mean, I've kind of... It's unfortunate that we probably do need to convert Siana here. Not that she really had anyone to power up. I mean, we could go double Drog Deploy, which doesn't do anything special anyway. And we're going to use Drog to convert Siana anyway. So, I mean, unless we want to... No, we can't do it here. He's not going to get eaten if we play him here, so yeah, we might as well do this. I mean, we can eat the Were-Rat if we really want to, because we could, but yeah, no thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. Lacerate. I mean, okay, technically, yes, you did get that to the threshold you needed to get it to. Okay, so here's the thing. We've been playing with fire a little bit. We, haven't really been maximizing our points all that well. We should Masterful Thunder here and hit Morkvarg, and the overkill damage will hit both Yennefer and Converting Revenants, which should be really solid value. Amazing value at that. And then we do this. And make it so that there is basically no way that you are going to get your leader ability to trigger on this last turn. Do they have Morkvarg? I hope they don't have Morkvarg. They don't have Morkvarg. We're fine. Okay, we can add Ooh. A better Axel? Tempting. Very tempting. Osrail consumed 2 units from either our opponent's graveyard or our graveyard. Also a point slam, but a different kind of point slam. Does not require that we have so many units on the board, more requires that we've destroyed something big. Which we are not really doing as much of. Remove a Night Wraith. It's not one of our better cards, but it does help us get more units on the board, so I think it is probably one of these guys. I think you're probably still the most natural fit. The only other battle we have remaining is the boss, for what it's worth, so we should be thinking entirely around what works better for the boss. You ideally go range row. Well, I guess both. I was going to say, so you're a little bit restricted in where we play, but you're also row specific as well, so it's not really a factor. I'm not sure we have enough damage to set this up. And if they destroy something, several things, and put them in our graveyard, I'm not sure if we have enough high base power cards for this to be quite as good as Axel. Axel, when fully set up, is amazing. So I think we still take him. Okay, so now it's just place of power and boss. So let us proceed here. We can remove a card or we can gain energy. We had said if we had a decent stock of energy at this point, perhaps we would remove a card because we still have some Harpy eggs in our deck that have continued to pop up. But I think we probably do take the energy here because 31 is definitely less than I would like to have going into this boss fight. I think our deck is still pretty weak, to be honest. I mean, we've made some upgrades, for sure. But we've just never really felt like we've been significantly overpowering opponents. Certainly not to the extent that we were doing that in our previous run. So that does make me a little bit nervous. And, I mean, we perhaps have stronger spells this time around with Masterful Thunder. Could be a useful skill against this boss, but it does also destroy some of our cards, or try to destroy some of our cards, and we have some Death Wish to speak of, so that might not be so bad, and we can also flood rows, which means if much of their setup is about freezing our cards, and in doing so, trying to move them and destroy them, if we flood a row entirely and prevent them from doing any movement, then that means, well, in that case, they are not going to be able to destroy one of those cards, so it's a bit of a workaround. It's a, maybe not the most ideal workaround, but it is technically a way to shut down part of their ability, so let's hop in. All right, here it is, Alabastra. We've seen it many times before. Okay, and the other thing is that, so right, they're gonna create all the freezing. That's what I was referring to before. And as we were saying previously, if you transform a card that has a status on it, it loses the status. So things like Drog and things like the Tears of the Dragon can be helpful in that way. Poke Invisibility, it's a little risky because, well, I guess if we get the Veil on, then it can't get frozen, this card, because I was going to say if you get a really highly boosted unit and it gets moved with the freeze, then it gets destroyed and bye-bye to your 15 points of boost, but of course the Veil means no other statuses, so that should make it safe. We'd love to get SHANI here so we can play cards from our graveyard because they're going to try to destroy some stuff. We had said when we picked up Were-Rat that he probably wasn't a great option against this boss, because if it does get frozen, hold on. Freezing enemy unit is destroyed, freeze adjacent units, and damage them by 2. Freezing enemy units cannot be boosted. So if we can destroy this right wing, then he becomes safer. But still, if he can become bigger, But if he gets moved and we have like a 30-point were-rat, he gets freezing, he gets moved, he gets destroyed, there goes 30 points, and that could be the game. Still don't love it even if we do destroy that wing. I do like flooding the rows a little bit. I think that's a easier way to counter, and Germain can certainly help us do that. On the other hand, with no guaranteed ways to consume yet, we might need to stick with you. We should probably swap you out, though. There is SHANI. Okay, great. Okay, this looks a little bit better. So I think what we'll start with is Germain. And we could certainly work around these frozen adventurers pretty quickly here, I would think. So... although Germain technically won't do that. I think he's still going to put them next to him and not on the other side of the adventurer, unfortunately. If anything, let's flood the melee row. So if we do get Axel, we have an easier way to fit him in, where we'd most like to have him. Okay, let's convert one of these cows. Oh, it's a lot of base power. We'll take that. And then, in terms of leader abilities stuffs, we don't have quite as much energy as we'd like, perhaps. We'll play, what, 10 cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 4, yeah, 10. And so that means 5 energy per turn, means can't quite do Masterful Thunder every turn. Could do Rat Swarm every turn, could do Cleanse every turn, so theoretically should mean that we could boost, or I'm just wondering, mostly for taking out this wing. Oh, and then we draw a card, and then that means we have more turns in which to use our energy, and so therefore might still want to have more energy to spare. I mean, if we got Hjalmar, that'd be amazing. Hjalmar could almost immediately destroy one of these wings. But love that. But we don't have him yet. Also, SHANI don't have an amazing target for her to replay. I mean, if they do manage to destroy Griffin, I suppose that's not bad. Think we might hold off for now. Okay, Winter Queen will get boosted a lot. A lot. And the highest unit has been frozen, not so surprisingly. We do get Axel, so that is a highly boostable card. Can do that. Oh, the placement of this Tears of the Dragon makes this quite difficult to shut down, doesn't it? Yeah, that's kind of nasty. Okay. To be honest, it's not a terrible drog play. Don't love the 1 power Revenants, but it is a lot of Revenants to just throw at a wing and get a little bit of damage across, across all of them. It's not bad. And we cut off Germain, but he's already flooded this row a fair bit, and it means we get rid of the freezing on this Griffin and remove the risk of losing a 9 power unit, which would be kind of nice. I would kind of like that. And we can play something on this side of the Frozen Adventurer, which would also be nice. I think I'm going to do that. Okay, so there goes the freezing. We won't have any room to spawn in additional Revenants, but that's not a terrible thing, because we, first of all, may not be able to actually destroy any of these wings with these guys on our next turn, unless, I mean, we're probably about to use it. Probably will use the Thunder now. And is it going to be on the Winter Queen? It might be. Because if we do that, then we can probably destroy something with the Revenants on our next turn. So I think that is worth it. Maximum damage. We technically could have reset it with Bloody Baron if we were really patient. Okay, you would be a threat if we had anything that was freezing anymore, but we don't. So now, I mean, yes, we can definitely get the death blow on you. Thinking, when we go Night Wraith here, we can put something on either side of this Frozen Venture, which is probably a good thing to do. Why don't we do that?
Your blood will warm my bones.
And then we can Tears of Siren, Tears of the Dragon. I keep saying Tears of Siren because that's a card in multiplayer Gwent. But let's convert you or you. That looks familiar. Let us, I think, still get the death blow here. Yes, it does mean we'll use it on the little guys. In case they get destroyed, because they're more likely to get destroyed. We might save these ones. Because, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 is not enough to destroy you unless we get a different source of damage. Yeah. Which, I mean, is possible with Masterful Thunder if we really wanted to. It's a little bit preemptive for that. We'd like for there to be more units on the board when we do so. Yeah, we'll use the damage on the 1-power ones because it's obviously pretty easy for them to get destroyed. We'll save the ones from the higher power ones because these guys are less likely to get destroyed. And if these guys do get destroyed, we kind of like to fill this row again. Or if we get rid of a Frozen Adventurer. Okay, they're going to keep on trying to freeze this guy. What was your deal? Spawn 2 copies of Self in row at the end of your turn if there's a freezing enemy. Boost Self. So we don't really want to transform you into something with the Tears of the Dragon, otherwise we are very likely to get something worse than 9 power. I mean, of course, if you get destroyed, then you're going to be worth 0, so... Oh, we draw to the other Axel. So, the other reason why we like filling a row is because if we play Axel in the range row here, that means that, there's almost no room for them to move him, which means, that could... Alright, if we set up a death blow on a Revenant, then we could get to that point. We probably should on this Wild Hunt Bruiser. But, then that means they can't do anything to shut down Axel. They can't move him with freeze and automatically destroy him, so that'd be really nice. If you do get destroyed, then we could, I suppose, bring you back with SHANI, which we've not yet played, but we haven't had any units in our graveyard, so it hasn't been relevant yet, so that makes sense. I mean, we could play Where We're At and consume something, and then that gives us reason to get SHANI out more quickly, but I think we go Axel 3 Eyes, and that's a big deploy ability, which actually we could bring back with SHANI if we consume it with Where We're At, so that might be the play. That might be the play here. Maybe we put you over here.
I hear tomorrow's succulent colors.
Because that means if we play Where We're At over here, we can consume you, and then we get the high value stuff consumed early, and we can use SHANI to bring you guys back. So I think we do want to destroy you, otherwise this Revenant is going to go down. So we could either guarantee that you go down if we target you directly, or take our chances here. Go after this Wild Hunt Hound. Definitely has higher potential, because if we do get extra damage, we'll deal extra damage to you, and hopefully get you into death blow range of these 2 Revenants. So that is more potential, but not quite as safe an option. I think we just probably need to guarantee that we get this. It would have been enough to set up the death blow last. We can still do this if we really want to, though. We should probably do it on you, since you may still get destroyed. So now, they can, if they freeze you, they can't immediately move you, because this row is full. Okay, more of them getting spawned. And we will draw one more card. It's the Werecat, which would be really nice in this melee row where they're loading up on a bunch of cards. But I think we're probably still going to stick with the Were-Rat plan here. And consume the big stuff. Means if he gets moved, we're in serious trouble. But why don't we convert... Probably you. Because there's a chance you get consumed, and you might be something that gives us additional value. If you get consumed, it's guaranteed. I mean, it's higher base power, which is not bad, but... the other thing we've not focused on at all is the wings. And that was something we were considering doing. They do, of course, have armor and 6 power. We do have a lot of damage with our Masterful Thunder, but we've used it a lot already, and that is pretty expensive stuff. And we don't have much damage elsewhere. In fact, we've only the Werecat that can give us additional damage here. So it's not like that's going to be a huge factor against the wings. If we want to destroy them, it basically has to be the Thunder. And it might give us extra cards that do have damage, like Yalmar most specifically. Could, at this point, one-shot either wing. But that's obviously nowhere near a guarantee. So I don't think we can rely on that. I think this turn, we probably go leader ability-less. Ooh, that scares me a whole lot. Okay. So, if we give you Cloak of Invisibility, yes, you've already gotten the Veil. Or you've already gotten the freezing. So if you get moved, you're still gonna die. But if you can't target him, then it might be harder to make that happen. Right? Right? Hopefully. Yeah, so I think that means that kind of has to be what we do here. We would have liked to have gone SHANI and get another Axle out here as quickly as possible, consume that Axle, and then try to SHANI it again, and so on and so forth. That is the maximum point play, but it is, I think, too risky right now. Technically, Werecat cannot get moved when this row is full, so it is safe at the moment for that reason. But obviously, if this guy gets moved, then suddenly we're in a lot more trouble. And they do have, I think we've seen on prior occasions, some cards that can move multiple cards randomly. On one turn, which means could be in a lot of trouble. We also can't really convert you because you're a high power card, so I mean, we are pretty much guaranteed to lose a lot of value if we do that. So that would be painful. That was the risk we ran. We might pay the price if we don't do this. I mean, it still might backfire on us because this is 15 more points that we're investing in you. So that's, yeah, it's scary. It is. Oh, also, you still can't get boosted because we haven't destroyed this wing yet. Lids is an idiot. We were talking about it, and then I didn't do it yet, so it didn't matter. I mean, we still gave you the immunity, which was honestly the primary reason why we did that. The boost is not a huge factor. We just don't want you to. Oh, except we need to get rid of this wing as soon as possible, though, because you're going to keep on consuming things. And if we don't find a way to get rid of this wing, then we are just losing value every turn. I mean, this will at least spawn in some rats in the meantime, but yeah, that's very, very not good. Okay, that's close. Decent damage there, and then Revenant plus Revenant drops you down to 3 on our next turn. So it should be in removal range after that. That's scary. So they can't move you, but they can move either of you. So probably do need to convert one of you guys. And then, I mean, unless we destroy you, which is definitely doable, especially with the Revenants. Just hoping to destroy you as quickly as possible. They are right next to each other, so that means potentially the Thunder overkill damage on one could set up the kill on the other, but that's still kind of questionable. Werecat can give us slightly more damage, which once again may mean we're technically playing not in the ideal order for maximizing our point total, but I think to shut down our opponent, it probably is still necessary. Probably should have put you a little closer to Werecat. On one hand, I didn't want to put you right next to it because I didn't want you to get consumed and then not get the points from it, because Werecat is currently not capable of getting boosted, but should have given ourselves some time to at least have the possibility of that happening. But alas. Let us now transform. I think it's going to be you. Yes, it's less value as we expected, but it does at least mean that you're not going to get destroyed. You probably will get destroyed. Yeah. That's pretty much unavoidable at this point. So now we go Thunder. And that means no movements. And it also means we could get the death blow here and allow us to get boosted, which would have meant that we could have put you next to that. But, okay, we also will draw a card, and it's Slizzard for more consumption. Obviously also risky for the same reason that it's risky on you. However, if we consume you with the Slizzard, we get rid of the freezing on you and allocate all the points to this Slizzard, and we just really hope that this doesn't get the freezing, which would have meant if we had saved that Cloak of Invisibility and had the chance to use it on you before you consumed anything, that would have been ideal, but alas, again, it's not the way that it worked. Still don't like those. Still very much do not like those.
Draw a pecker on your forehead if you like.
Freeze all the rats you'd like, though. I'm fine with that. Okay. So, I mean, SHANI is technically best to go Axel 3 Eyes and get a big boost from him. If we're trying to avoid this Were-Rat getting moved and destroyed in the process, then Slizzard is the best. And the reason Were-Rat, if it does get destroyed, will not maintain this boost, so it's not like we can just bring it back with SHANI and have everything be fine. No, that is not okay. So, yeah. So, for that reason, we could try Thundering again on you. Don't have any additional sources of damage. I mean, if we Bloody Baron... No, even Bloody Baron doesn't have the Zeal because we're going to have to play him in the range rail. Let's use Thunder and see what happens. It does destroy you. And we got actually decent roll on that. Got a little bit of overkill damage going onto this wing. So I think what that means is that we now will use Slizzard with the intention of consuming you. And Slizzard actually means we can consume the Werecat on a later occasion. Okay, that's fine. Don't have any Frozen Adventurers anymore, so that's also fine. Now we will lose the Veil, but it doesn't really... And lose the immunity, but it doesn't... The Veil doesn't matter because you were already frozen. The immunity potentially matters because that would have been your best way, or that would have been our best way to avoid you getting moved, but you may still have had a way to make it happen. So I think we probably still do consume you, and this is finally the time where we can play SHANI.
It's war. Severed limbs, blood, and guts.
Play you. Huge boost. All right, we can't. Oh, we can't consume you because you have immunity. Of course, of course, of course. I knew that. I knew that. Well, we can consume you, although it's not really a great time to do so. We won't have time to get you back unless we can destroy this wing. In which case, SHANI will have just enough time to come off cooldown. So we don't need to make that happen just yet. Damage maximum is 8. So if we were to consume Werecat and high roll, then we would have enough. Otherwise, we don't have enough in this turn. I think we still do it. Let's see what we get. Pretty decent. Not enough to consume Werecat, but actually, if we do that, then we can use the Thunder once again on our next turn and get a lot of carryover damage on you. It's not a terrible thing. If they happen to play more cards in this row, then obviously that makes it easier for us to make that happen. Also, the more units we have, the stronger Axel is going to be, and he's going to be our finisher. It needs to be Baron next turn. Yeah. Fine. Fine.
I wonder how long you last.
Okay. So now we definitely consume you because you could get destroyed if you get moved, and we can just get rid of the freezing and get that damage and then go overkill damage on the thunder. Damage everyone by 1 in this row. There are more cards in this row now, so that works well. We definitely have the highest unit for the moment, so this is just 1 point per turn on Nithral, which is not that bad. Technically speaking, last turn... no, I was going to say last turn we could use the... Yeah, we could last turn use the Werecat to destroy you without needing to go Thunder here. That is a thing that we can theoretically do. However, Shani is going to get eaten by Wererat before that happens, unless we play Bloody Baron in between. Oh, they also... I did not even see this. Which you will be able to consume and boost self by 6. We'd rather not... Well, there's actually no way to avoid that happening. We also can transform you, or really anyone.
We didn't come here to build sandcastles.
Definitely an upgrade, and he's going to get consumed immediately at the end of this turn, so we might as well use you. We're not going to use this card, but nice try. Okay. So... basically, the question is, do we use Masterful Thunder to take you out, or do we rely upon Shani bringing back the Werecat? I think we'd rather not do that, because we'd prefer to bring back another big Axel. That's definitely going to be worth more points, so I think we do this. You'll get consumed. Next turn, we'll use this to reset one of the Wild Hunt Hounds, and Shani will be able to bring back the Axel in the future, especially after doing that. Hjalmar, huge damage from him. Okay, that's a big pickup for sure. Wait, what? Oh, when... do they have it such that when we destroy Frozen Adventure, or destroy one of our cards, they spawn in a Frozen Adventure? Now this is scary, because they destroyed one of our Frozen units, but this row is no longer full, which means they can move this. So we need to put something here. And that something can definitely be Hjalmar, and will definitely be Hjalmar. So we can do this and get a lot of damage, and we should just go after their highest card, and one that can continue to get boosted a lot, that being this Whelp. These guys will get boosted a little bit, but only 1 per turn, and this is potentially going to get boosted 6 per turn. So yeah, let's definitely prioritize you. So down you go. And now we should reset, because Bloody Baron is going to get consumed at the end of this turn, and you are the most highly boosted card. So let's do that. And then... not really anything to consume. We've already played our card this turn, right? So we can have enough to go Thunder plus Cleanse. We Thunder on you. We shut down a little bit of damage. Or we can wait and see what options we have on our next turn. It's not a super high priority that we go after you. We could... next turn, we might even want to Axel 3 Eyes and then go Rat Swarm and just clog this row entirely so they can't do any movement. That might be the best option for us, to be honest. Because that's obviously the... well, they don't have... they have 1 card in this row they could move and destroy. So, okay. Okay. Where does that leave us? Means we could cleanse... and still the option of doing anything on our next turn. So I think we do that. Shouldn't do it on a freezing unit. Guess we'll do it on Shani. Now she becomes frozen. Both head in. Damage would be huge on Wererat, except he has the immunity, so they can't target him. Alright, so now what we can do is let's convert with Tears of the Dragon. something in this row. It's Axel. We don't get the deploy ability, unfortunately, but we will get some more Axels right here, right now. So we go SHANI to replay this one from our graveyard. Get a huge boost there, and then we go this Axel to get another huge boost. Actually, I mean, like, we can do this, but we want to, I guess. And then we can use Lizard to consume SHANI because she's already done her thing and it just gets rid of one more freezing unit, so it's a little bit safer for us. Oh, but it does spawn in. Whenever a freezing unit gets destroyed, they spawn in one of these. I forget what it is that's making that happen. Might even be this. Yes, it is. But now we go Thunder and we just go for whatever the biggest option is, and I think it's Nithrall because we can shut down the damage and get a little bit of overkill on you. So there we go. We are not going to use that order ability. We have a large lead. They cannot move Were-Rat unless they destroy something in our melee row, which is unlikely. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, but he also has immunity, so it should be pretty safe. Well, we're about to find out, because that is basically what this entirely depends upon. No, that we're fine. We're fine. We're fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Certainly not our smoothest run ever. The deck felt considerably weaker than any previous run. Just never really felt like we came into our own there, but we did win, and that is a 5-game win streak, and I think that's kind of the target I had in the back of my head is, it'd be kind of nice to get to that number, and then after that, whatever happens. We can start messing around with things like, just go maximum points or just maximum RNG and what have you, things we've been talking about in the past, but we won, and that means we should get a lot of experience and unlock a new deck. Let's see. What do we have here? So we might have just unlocked this. I know we saw it before. I don't know if we had been partially progressing through. We might have completed it. I think this is the first one that we actually unlocked this time around. Forktail, damage all other units by 1. Works great if you have far fewer units than your opponent. I think it's something that shows up for the this type of deck, and you just consume a ton of things. Philippa, lots of damage. Armored Arrakis, give bleeding to an enemy unit. Obsidian Mirror. Spawn 3 1-power copies of an allied unit on its row. Oh, allied unit. Detloff? Question mark? Does that mean you can create 3 separate Detloffs? Extra power deck, it's kind of tempting. And then Chaos, which I believe may be the last archetype. Hold on, let's see. Plunge deep into the unknown where uncertainty is the only law. I mean, we were talking about trying to maximize RNG with Hive Mind, and we did to a certain extent with our Detloff run that we did previously, because we did take the rapid evolution, but I have to imagine Chaos might even be more capable of, causing chaos, so that might be the preferred way to set that type of run up. Then we have more treasure cards. Necromancer's Tome, play 2 units from any graveyard, either yours or your opponent's. If both graveyards are empty, spawn a Kandwani Revenant on each allied row. That's kind of funny. We obviously know a bit about the Revenants. Inspiring Loot, boosts all copies of an allied unit by 1. Oh! May not sound all that significant, but with the deck we just ran, I mean, think about how many rats or cows we could get, and boost all of them by 5, and that is, that can add up to quite a bit. More than even a Cloak of Invisibility, certainly more than Cloak of Invisibility if set up properly. Then we have Heir to the Student, boost an allied unit by 1, or if you don't use it, then it gets powered up by 1 every turn, so you try to charge it up. Selkirk of Gullets. It's our first card that we've seen that has a dual ability, which is really cool. I hope we get the chance to try that out in the future. We'll save the explanation for later on that one, I suppose, because it is a little complex. Then the Apiarian Phantom. Veil Zeal, we actually saw at least one, if not multiple opponents use it in this run. Damage enemy unit by 3. Then ideally what you do is you don't use that ability immediately, and therefore you get boosted every turn for several turns. Then at the very end of the match, you use the order and get the 3 damage, which the enemy that we saw used the order immediately, which is why I said at the time they misplayed it. Then we're close to unlocking... Oh no, this we've not yet finished, but we're very close to getting. And Masterful Cleanse is the next thing, which would boost all allied units by 1. That's kind of interesting. So it's, you know, similar to the Masterful Thunder that we used this time. It's an empowered version of one of the more standard spells. But the one that we use is just objectively better. I mean, it's more expensive, but it deals more damage to a single target, and it has the potential to deal damage to adjacent enemies as well. This one boosts more cards, but it definitely does not boost by more than the normal cleanse does. So, totally different use case, and seems like it would work well for the deck that we just ran. Again, just flood your rows with as many units as possible, and that means for, I mean, it's 6 points, but if you have both rows completely full, that's 9 units in each row, so 18 points for 6 power, or 6 energy. That's pretty good value. I mean, that is a lot of setup, but still, it's guaranteed if you have that setup, whereas some of the other things, like the Masterful Thunder that we just saw, is always going to be at least somewhat RNG dependent. So there you have it. Don't think that one quite stacks up, at least not in my mind. I know there were certainly times when we held back a little bit. We avoided elite battles altogether in that run, and, you know, if we happened to get 1 or 2, then I'm sure we could have scaled the power of the deck much more significantly, but alas, we opted not to. For the treasures, I mean, we got a Cloak of Invisibility, which was, I mean, it's good. It wasn't like it was a run-saving card or anything like that. But, and then we almost set up an effective Ethereal. We got it up to, what, 9 base power, which in theory should have been great. But we just never saw it after that. At the very early, we got it. And at that point, we messed it up badly once. And we had an enemy steal it once. Almost immediately. And then after that, we just never saw it again. Quite literally never saw it again. So it was supposed to be the deck that, or the card that we invested the most in of anything else. So it's a little painful that it just disappeared after that, but we still found a way to make it work, and, you know, maybe the run would have went a little more smoothly, a little more comfortably, if we had, in fact, gotten that a little more often, but we still made it happen, still made it work. So, you know, what we have next on our list for our next run is probably either the new Chaos deck that we just unlocked, probably that, although we could start going back. We talked about it before. We now have a 3rd leader unlocked for, I believe, both the... check it right here. The Bulwark deck. Yeah, with the Glace. We've not yet played her, and we've not yet played Melusine for Savage Fury. We have not yet unlocked the last leader for Hive Mind, although we're pretty... or key card for Hive Mind, but we're pretty darn close. I think we're in the 40s now.